In the mountain range, an intense fight is currently happening. The terrain of the mountainous area has been wrecked, and the ground itself has been uprooted. To no surprise, it is Sparky, the golden mutant ant, who is engaged in a fierce combat. He has reached entry level 6. In front of him stands a magnificent light that signifies the strength of his foe. It is revealed to be Blue Mantis, the fearsome entry level 7. Bugs versus bugs, some insect repellent, and these guys are done. Sparky knows that even though he is only at level 6, he can still go toe-to-toe with level 8 beasts. But contrary to his belief, this level 7 mantis in front of him is sending him into the back foot. It truly is a strong beast. Blue Mantis does not waste a second and identifies a gap in Sparky's defenses. It charges like a speeding lightning, zigzagging until it reaches its strike zone. Sparky blocks the charge and slash of the mantis with his extraordinarily armored limbs. The two forces collide, and the area surrounding them falls into destruction as the impact is too powerful. He sincerely looks and praises the mantis for being this strong at its current level. He wants to recruit this guy into their growing unit, a bug faction with Go So Hard. With the stab of his blade, he finally gets the chance to demonstrate his superior abilities. A portion of Blue Mantis' upper body is shaved off as it falls back in defeat. It is yet another decisive victory for the Wonder Ant Sparky. He reassures the mantis that the wound is not fatal. He just coated it with his master's paralytic toxin, which is why it cannot move a muscle. Suddenly, Demon Cow comes running down towards them with sincere concern for his brother, Sparky's well-being. He assures his second brother that everything is fine. That doesn't stop the caring Demon Cow from backing him up like a worried big brother against the paralyzed Blue Mantis. Sparky assesses that this mantis has the ability and affinity to control the wind element, giving it unparalleled speed at its level. Demon Cow remarks that it is already dawn, and the sun is coming up. It's almost time to wrap up today's hunt. The Expeditionary Beast unit takes the long trek back home from the mountain ranges. The Tempest Wolf, Demon Cow, Sparky, Armored Boar, Gold Silk Monkey, Bald Head, and White Tiger stand side by side as they slowly become the overlords of the area. The Emperor Alligator diligently waits in the fog. When Sparky asks why their fourth brother is looking at them with such intensity, Demon Cow simply answers that it's for their safety. If they were to encounter a strong enemy, he will be able to rush out of the Misty Mountains and back them up at the first opportunity. With that cleared up, they suddenly notice that the stupid White Tiger has gone missing. It turns out that it already ran away, carrying the unconscious Blue Mantis. It's probably rushing to claim credit from their god tree. Meanwhile, Yuzu has been incredibly busy with his diligent day-to-day training. His roots, branches, and everything else have been working tirelessly to be at their best. He can be seen effortlessly lifting rock formations the size of a small hill. It's been a whole day, and he is already exhausted. He has finally used up all 450,000 of his spirit energy. There are still 27 branches that he has yet to upgrade. He reckons that a few more hunts would suffice for the whole boost. The White Tiger can be seen running joyfully towards him as it eagerly calls out to him with lively howls. The first day of the hunt is finally over for the beasts, and now he must deal with this noisy cat of his. When asked why it's so excited, the White Tiger spits out the unconscious Blue Mantis. Yuzu is flabbergasted at this spit-covered offering, but he is quickly amazed at the stats of the mantis in front of him. It is already at entry level 8. Not only that, but it also has the abilities Wind Power and Mimicry of the environment. It looks like this little guy would be a valuable addition to his team as an assassin type. He honestly praises the White Tiger for doing a good job of bringing back someone useful. Meanwhile, the real beast that did all the work is still en route home. Yuzu promptly takes the mantis to the spirit pool for a dip. This will help it recover from its injuries. The mantis comes into contact with the life essence in the pool and is completely healed and alert. The little guy quickly tries to take off and escape before it even realizes what's happening. Yuzu simply responds with his swift signature spanking. The mantis is once again brought down into the pool while unconscious. He's truly become just a strict parent for the beasts at this point. The Demon Cow and the rest of the gang have finally arrived home. The concerned beast expresses his worry for Nine Tails, who hasn't come back yet for such a long time. He wants to personally embark on a quest to find his first brother. Yuzu thinks it over, but Ninetails has only been gone for half a month. With the fox's strength, he should be doing fine for now. He reassures the demon cow that there's nothing to worry about. But the demon cow continuously pleads with him to let him get out and look for the fox. He sternly rejects the demon cow's proposal, as simply being strong doesn't make him a great candidate for a search operation. It would be an arduous task to look for someone in a massive desert. Furthermore, if he were to encounter an opponent with the same level of strength as the fox, it would certainly spell disaster. Finally, Yuzu promises the cow that if he can break through to the next level, he will allow the search. The demon cow understands his master and promptly asks for permission to train in the stone spirit mine. Yuzu reflects that this cow has been by his side, absorbing the spiritual power he emits. After a long period of accumulation, it has finally reached entry level 9. Now that he is determined to cultivate at the stone spirit mine, where the soil matches his properties, this beast will surely reach the transcendence limit. He cannot wait to find out just what sort of crazy power it will achieve. 3 days of non-stop hunting have passed for the expeditionary beast unit, and in those 3 days, all of Yuzu's branches have finally been strengthened. Every single one of his 50 branches has changed into its level 3 appearance, making him more majestic to look at. After fully upgrading his branches, he learned something new. If he infuses his branches with constant spiritual power, they can split into even more branches. His branches look a little sus though. Now, he wants to try an experiment. He will infuse every bit of spiritual power into the branches to see what happens at full power. He proceeds to inject every bit of spiritual power he has, and the branches turns wild all over the place. The next thing you know, every single beast in the vicinity is already looking in Yuzu's direction. Every resident of the mountain could not believe just what they are seeing right in front of them. Humans and beasts alike looked up to the sky in awe of a beauty they had never seen before. One of the superhumans knew exactly what this phenomenon truly was. It was the gorgeous Aurora Borealis. Every branch of Yuzu intertwined and glowed in every hue of the light spectrum. Even the skies were affected by such a display of elegance and majesty. Bro was just casually executing the most beautiful technique in history. Every being witnessing the spectacle was mesmerized and stunned. Not only did it exude beauty, but its force was also undoubtedly felt. If these ethereal branches were to fall, this place would be flattened in a heartbeat. The brilliance of this new technique was truly unmatched. Meanwhile, Sparky mocked the humans, reminding them to savor the honor of witnessing his master's power in action. Show Sparky, this guy really has the biggest hater energy in the series. He continued, stating that if his master did not find these humans useful, he would have already killed them long ago. This naturally provoked the humans, but they restrained themselves. When asked if Sparky hated humans to this extent, he simply laughed in response as he walked away. Not only did he hate humans, but he also absolutely abhorred them. As the golden mutated ant left the scene, she was left mortified, as that answer sent chills down her spine. The transcendent light of Yuzu's branches slowly died down as they reverted to their level 3 appearance. The branches drooped down, and exhaustion was evident on his round face. The rate of spiritual consumption was terrifying. In just a few breaths of activating the ability, more than 400,000 spiritual energy was lost like a flood. He concluded that the level 3 ability was too heavy to use at his current second level of transcendence. Currently, this technique could only be used in a critical moment of life and death. Back in the underground city, we see every primate in the mountainous region working tirelessly to build the settlements. King Kong had been diligently overseeing the operation and efficiently taking charge of his pack. Instead of constructing a building to climb, this King Kong is building a whole underground city. Yuzu went down to check on the construction efforts. He praised the superhuman Ching Tong for doing such a great job. He had initially worried if they would be able to control such a massive number of wild primates. It seemed like they could be effectively controlled if they recognized that the leader was stronger than them. After this construction, Yuzu planned to train them in a different direction. He wanted to take them on the army route and turn this battalion into a military unit. While they were talking, a powerful earthquake suddenly struck. Yuzu stayed calm as he identified that this was not an earthquake. He had felt these tremors before when Cho Ching was undergoing her breakthrough. It might just be the demon cow evolving. The demon cow was undergoing a transformation under the veil of the spirit stones, so the rampant spiritual power was being blocked, making it impossible to perceive. The last time Xiaoqing broke through, he only noticed the transformation due to the blinding evolution light. They pinpointed that the demon cow was powering up inside one hole. It was not just any hole, it was where the spirit earth stones were stored. The demon cow was so full of energy that it rushed out of the hole with vigorous intensity. Yuzu saw its momentum, and could already tell that this was something extraordinary. The cow roared at the top of its lungs and shook the entire underground city. It was headed for the source of the power of the earth. By absorbing large amounts of spirit earth stones, beautiful yellow flowers bloom as a concentrated form of the earth's energy. They contained a vast amount of spirit stone essence that could take the cow to a whole other level. It couldn't wait to break through as a blinding light of pure concentrated energy broke through the ceiling of the massive underground city. The bull finally took a bite of the flower and started its transcendence. Eat that flower, man. You deserve it. It was so full of energy that the only way to release and safely ascend was upstairs in the open. It broke through the ground right in front of Yuzu. Even the god tree was forced to shield itself from the blast of force coming from the cow. Yuzu felt annoyed that seemingly every breakthrough of his subordinates ruined his place in one way or another. The debris and smoke cleared up, revealing something powerful. The newly evolved demon cow emerged from the dust with a new look. It grew another pair of horns, and its mane grew wildly. Its size had also significantly increased. Judging from its aura, it's already clear that it was on another level compared to the other great beasts. Yuzu also noticed that the air around the cow was twisting. To confirm his hunch, he opened his subordinate's interface. That's when it was revealed that this beast had just obtained the ability to control the gravity field. It had unexpectedly awakened something exceptional. Gravity is one of the most powerful forces in the world. This guy just became Admiral Fujitora from One Piece. Baldhead and Sparky swiftly rushed to their second brother's side and congratulated him for such an impressive breakthrough. The demon cow remarked that even though it had broken through, it still could not feel its powers. Yuzu knew an easy fix for this sentiment. It would just have to figure it out in a fight. Sparky and the newly recruited Blue Mantis stood side by side against the newly awakened demon cow. He gave the Mantis a deal. If they won against the best, he would let it go. But if they lost, then it must stay here obediently. Bro just took a horrible offer. Look how big your opponent is. Sparky started the match off by apologizing to his second brother, but he was going all out. The demon cow did not mind this as he taunted them to charge. The deadly insect duo seemed to be in tune with each other. A yellow and blue aura rushed into the air as they rushed to land the first blow of the match. Yuzu admired their speed, as even he was having a hard time keeping up with their movements. The Mantis executed Blue Meteor while Sparky activated his Golden Flash. The duo clearly had the advantage with regards to speed. They're kind of cooking though. Every beast resident of the mountain watched in bated breath as they witnessed their brothers going at it seriously. The duo finally decided to let out their respective finishing moves. As they got into their effective distance, both were already certain that victory was all but secured. Are you sure about that? Sparky and the Blue Mantis got as close as they could with their blinding yellow and blue auras respectively. Demon Cow promptly responded by activating a powerful aura of his own. The violet and violent force caught the insect duo by surprise as they started falling towards the floor in less than the blink of an eye. Their small bodies created massive craters around where Demon Cow was standing proudly. Yuzu concluded that pure speed was no longer a problem in front of this beast. He also advised Baldhead to not even think about sneaking inside the battlefield. A sneaky honey badger stopped in his devious tracks as he realized that he might just die if he faced Demon Cow. The always concerned beast quickly asked his golden fifth brother if he was fine. Sparky reassured him that he tanked the power just fine, but his internal organs were crushed, and a lot of his joints had been broken. Brother, your insides are in shambles. Go to the hospital for ants as soon as possible. Yuzu quickly utilized his Rain of Vitality ability to accelerate the healing of the duo, who could barely even stand on the floor. He observed them, and it seemed like they were fine on the surface, but their internals, on the other hand, had been decimated by the force of gravity. Luckily, He had the Rain of Vitality in his arsenal. Or they could have been out of commission for days if not months. Who needs emergency rooms anyways? The recently beaten and instantly healed Blue Mantis realized what he had signed up for and once again tried to escape using his absurd speed. This escape attempt was once again met with a spanking from the boss. Demon Cow and Yuzu faced one another seriously after this glorious breakthrough. Now that the beast had reached the transcendental stage, he was going to have to polish his skills even further. Yuzu assured him that with consistent training, his abilities would be 10 times stronger than they were now in the future. Yuzu also honored their agreement earlier that he would let Demon Cow go find 9 tails after transcendence. He was letting the beast go on the condition that safety must be the paramount concern. Once Demon Cow found 9 tails, he must come straight back to the mountains. Demon Cow complied as he was now tasked with a crucial mission. He strode off with majestic steps as he embarked on a new journey. Best of luck, bro. Out on the outskirts of the mountains, the humans had once again established a military base with armed personnel. When will you guys learn from your mistakes? The soldiers patrolling was still shaken by the incidents of the past as they remained paranoid of the Emperor Alligator's presence. They deluded themselves of safety as they were 20 kilometers away from the previous incident. However, their confidence had been rising due to the presence of people from the Transcendental Force this time around. Now, all they were waiting for were the bulk of the troops and the artillery to arrive. Once they were locked and loaded, they planned to level the entire mountain. Meanwhile, in the Transcendental Research Institute, Xiao Qing and Xiao Ling's body was undergoing her intense combat training, with a fiery butterfly seen by her side. Her power was truly extraordinary as she caused nothing but destruction inside the training facility. After entering the transcendental stage, her power had been much stronger than she initially thought. It was like she had a perfect fusion between physical and spiritual abilities. Her flames had undergone a fantastical change. Her thoughts were interrupted by a staff from the Research Institute. It sounded like she had some business to attend to with the mentors. She complied, and the personnel was left inside the training facility. The aftermath of the genius's training was certainly a sight to behold. The walls of the facility were caved in and twisted in such inhuman ways. How the hell can you do that with fire butterflies? This training room was made of a super alloy as well. Her power was just on another level. She arrived among the crowd of people and promptly greeted her instructor, who was very happy to see her. A muscular man with a thunder tattoo and a familiar woman looked at the woman they knew as Xiao Ling arrived at the meeting. From a single glance, they could already feel the wave of heat emitting from her body, a vigorous burst of spiritual energy putting pressure on everyone in the room. But there was one more thing that the muscular man found of utmost interest. She was extremely beautiful. She's out of your league, bro. He introduced himself as Li Hao, arrogantly assuming she had already heard of his name. This egotistic introduction fell flat as she had never seen or heard of this man in her entire life. The instructor could not help but laugh at such a satisfying interaction between his pupil and the overconfident man. The Research Institute personnel whispered in her ear that this man was one of the top performers of the Federation. It turns out that he had broken through the Transcendental Realm half a month earlier than her. Furthermore, this guy was the son of a wealthy businessman from the Li family. His father had spent billions on spiritual herbs just to boost him. Of course, he's a pay-to-win player. With that, he became the youngest Major General in the Federation for his outstanding service in suppressing the Coastal Beast invasion. With his attempt to impress failing, he just got down to business and invited Xiao Ling to join the 2nd Military District. But before that, he must test her to see if she would qualify. As she was thinking about what this guy was yapping about, he was already exuding his thunderous aura all over the place as he proclaimed that the test was simple. They just had to fight. Xiao Ling was quick to respond as she released her powerful fiery aura as well. Every Research Institute staff member was cheering and rooting for her to beat Li Hao. They had full trust in their ace, as the instructor even tipped her off that this guy used a very special thunder element. This guy already looks like a disappointment to every badass thunder user ever. Meanwhile, the familiar-looking girl, the one that Xiao Ling had almost killed at the entrance exam, was cheering for her downfall. Get her next, Xiao Ling. The savage electricity of Li Hao soared as she warned her that he was charging in. In response, she just conjured up a single fire butterfly. As soon as he saw this technique, he was already starting to look down on her. He attributed this kind of technique to her being just another woman, as if it was expected that she would turn the violent nature of flames into such a flashy and fancy form. With a serious look in her eye, she just warned him to be careful. He was already determined that this type of technique posed no danger to him whatsoever. He proudly proclaimed that his spiritual power was as high as 20,000, and with that, he would blow her up effortlessly. The fire butterfly flew gracefully as it slowly made contact with the overconfident Li Hao. His thunder was immediately extinguished as the fiery inferno raged on his body, and he fell into a panic. He's going to have an extreme phobia of butterflies after this. He managed to recover and fall back after being almost burned to death by a single butterfly. The always supportive instructor was celebrating the strength of his star pupil, getting carried away and cheering for her to kill the guy. That's a big W, instructor, right there. The arrogant woman called out to Li Hao to get up and go at it again with Xiao Ling. Both sides were rooting for their respective representatives in the room. Li Hao was in disbelief that such a tiny fiery butterfly almost took his life with such strong lethality. She insisted that she had already warned him to be careful. This provoked Li Hao to a new level as anger flashed on his face. He activated his full power, displaying a truly terrifying might as he had had enough of getting humiliated repeatedly. He warned her that it would be out of control if she died from here on out. She reassured him that that kind of thing would not happen at all. The instructor and everyone else watching was stunned at what they were seeing in front of them. Xiao Ling had conjured up hundreds, if not thousands, of fire butterflies in the blink of an eye. It was now too late for Li Hao to admit defeat. Let's see if pay to win can tank this. She repeated that if he dies right here and now, she would not be to blame. It looks like Li Hao prefers going at it with her as he readies a thunderous punch with full power and rage. Thousands of fire butterflies against a man with a tiny spark of electricity in his punch. The sight was too lopsided to even call it a clash. Just go home at that point, bro. A massive explosion burst formed in the middle of flame and thunder. Everyone in the audience struggled to stay on their feet in such an intense fiery impact. The smoke from the explosion cleared, and Li Hao emerged, full of injuries while kneeling on one knee. With strained coughs, he struggled to even maintain consciousness. Xiao Ling stood in front of him, unscathed as he admitted defeat and fell to the ground of the research institute. The staff rejoiced at the victory of their one and only ace. The people who came with Li Hao, on the other hand, found it hard to comprehend what had just happened to their major general. In one of the men's buttons, a tiny camera could be seen live streaming the entire fight to another place. Is this dude streaming on Twitch or something? In an impressive room, a man wearing a suit had watched the entirety of the fight. He seemed surprised but pleased that Li Hao had lost quite badly. Another man with scars in both of his eyes added that Xiao Ling's abilities are simply too terrifying. For him personally, Li Hao would have been a tough opponent, and yet the young girl in the live feed easily defeated him. She's just literally built different, that's all. They decided to compile every piece of data and information they had on Xiao Ling. They were going to keep everything about her top secret from the outside world. The man lamented that after the deployment of the Second Army, most of the new recruits in the Second Division had been even weaker than Li Hao. They were hardly finding more powerful transcendent humans these days. But Xiao Ling, she stood out amongst everyone else. Back at Beiyu Gorge, life had been progressing as it had for a few days now. In the eastern part of the Fayu Mountains, Yu's beasts were still on the prowl, hunting and helping him level up efficiently. The roar of the beasts could be heard from afar as they had established themselves as the kings of the mountain range. Meanwhile, Yu's spiritual energy accumulated within his body, and he began to strengthen it further. Currently, his spiritual power hovered around 450,000. He was currently waiting for all his body parts, including the leaves, branches, and roots, to be fully strengthened. Once he got that sorted out, he could then begin his breakthrough to the third stage of transcendence. I wonder how his appearance would change at that point. What he did not know and had not noticed at this time was that deep in a nearby cave, a red aura was exuding massive bursts of evil energy. Because the spirit stones had the power to cut off spiritual energy, none of the creatures in the gorge could sense it, including Yuzu himself. But there was one exception to this, the awakened human transcendent with the intuition ability, the designated human language teacher of the beasts, Qian. For a while now, she had been feeling waves of unease pass over her repeatedly, but they were irregular, so it was hard to be sure. She conducted her own investigation and finally made a discovery. Right in front of her was an underground cave that had been expanded just a few days ago. She pinpointed that there were some strange waves of energy emanating from this very cave. Is this about to turn into a horror movie? She stared intently at the mouth of the unsettling cavern. Once again, she felt the unfamiliar energy washing over her. Right now, it was stronger than ever before. She found it hard to believe that their master had not even noticed this anomaly at all. As she was lost in thought and uneasiness, malevolent crimson red vines started coming out of the cave, aiming at her. She was immediately caught by the vines that immediately wrapped around her. These vines are kind of sus. Have you guys seen something like this somewhere? Before she could even scream for help, the seemingly intelligent vines had already covered her mouth. In a last-ditch effort, she managed to call out to her master one last time telepathically. She was dragged into the dark abyss of the cave. And just like that, it was as if she had never been out there in the first place. Yu was busy concentrating by himself when he was woken up by a distress call. He immediately identified that it was Qian calling out to him. Inside the cavern, she was trying her hardest to reach her God Tree Master, and Yu on the other side began to think that something dire was happening to Qian. He checked her house, and he could not find her there. She was not around the plains either. He was getting increasingly worked up as he blamed himself for not noticing sooner. A living person, a resident of his territory, had just disappeared right under his nose. Time to invest in CCTVs, my guy. These days, the fog was so thick that he could not keep an eye on everyone consistently all the time. But that should not be enough reason to not have noticed her going missing. She also could not have just run out of the mountains. With that in mind, he activated mist sensing in the thick fog. His sensations echoed throughout the whole gorge. After a while, he finally found her. He immediately sent his powerful root towards where he sensed her and descended towards the ominous cave. In the deepest depths of the cave, he found her right in that faint red light that he could dimly see from a distance. As he got closer, he found it harder and harder to believe that Qian had gotten here by herself. What greeted him in the deepest pits of the cave were the same crimson vines that had abducted Qian. Wriggling about, he saw her in a bad shape, being held by the vines and having her spiritual energy squeezed out as if the vines were straws connected directly to her. These vines were being controlled by a visibly malignant being, a mutant plant class. That's not a plant, that's the devil himself, bro. It could breed a forest of vines, it could corrupt enemies with a blood mist, its vine thorns were parasitic barbs, and it could parasitize a creature to gain control. This nasty-looking fellow was a real threat. Yu recalled that he had seen this plant before. This blood-colored plant was found in the Spirit Stone Mine originally. It looked like it had mutated to its current state right under his nose. Now it had even kidnapped Qian, indicating that it had already attained some level of intelligence. It used the blocking property of the Spirit Stones to hide itself, remaining undetectable to the outside world. The nasty plant began its attack as it brandished its vines towards Yu. He felt the evil and hostile aura of the plant immediately. It had no regard for him, even though they had just met. With that in mind, he could go kick some ass right here. Yu cut off the vines that had been absorbing and binding Qian and her spiritual energy. It seemed like this guy was unaware of what he was really facing. His stalwart branches wrapped around the nasty creature, and he proceeded to tug and pull the vile plant. In just a second, he had uprooted the malevolent herb out of the ground. As it lost its life, he was notified that he had gained a new ability. He acquired the Seed of Vitality, giving him the capability to quickly grow multiple trees in the ground up to the density of a small forest. Bro can single-handedly repair the earth. He discarded the lifeless plant as he celebrated his new ability. He might be able to create an ancient forest with this skill. He had skilled so many beasts before, but he had never actually acquired any new skills through it. He wondered if he needed to hunt more mutated plants to get more abilities. After this ordeal, he promptly checked on Qian. It seemed like he was too late. as Qian had passed away just like that in the hands of the mutated plant. It truly was a pity. Rest in peace, Qian. You were the most patient teacher in the gorge. Qian's lifeless body lay on the cold, hard ground, riddled with wounds from head to toe. The mutated plant had likely attempted to use her as a host, parasitizing into her in its bid to leave the ground. That's a nasty way to go. She did not deserve that at all. Having lived under the same gorge for a considerable time, Yuzu felt obligated to give her a proper burial. However, just as he was about to lift her corpse, something extraordinary occurred. Qian's eyes faintly opened as a powerful red aura enveloped her. She ascended to the top of the cave, covered in a crimson crystal, resembling a butterfly undergoing metamorphosis. Moments later, the crystallized shell began to crack, completely shattering to reveal a familiar hand emerging from the crimson gem. Qian emerged, now clad in a plant-like skin with crimson vines entwined around her body. Poison ivy, mommy. Sign me up. She had transformed into something truly extraordinary. Yuzu blushed at her sudden transformation, her figure now fully on display. It seemed she had undergone symbiosis with the blood-red mutated plant. Qian wore a complicated expression as she tried to process the events that had just unfolded. Suddenly, she was struck by a splitting headache. Yuzu panicked, as even for him, this was unfamiliar territory. Tears streamed down her face as she gradually realized the magnitude of what had happened to her. She turned to her master, the god tree, questioning if she still retained her humanity after such a profound alteration. He answered her directly, stating that she was no longer human at this point and jokingly referred to her as being in a vegetative state. This dude is taking care of so many beasts like a father. Now he's starting to quip dad jokes. However, Qian was in no mood for jokes. She was facing an existential crisis like no other. Setting aside the jest, Yuzu offered her a choice to decide which side she wanted to belong to. He also asked her if she believed she could truly reintegrate into human society given her new appearance. He earnestly questioned whether people would truly accept her as a human. This question left her with much to ponder. Ultimately, her consciousness remained intact and unaffected by the transformation. She had even absorbed the power of the red plant's energy. With this understanding, Yuzu extended his branches to Qian, welcoming her to join them in her newly altered form. He assured her that this marvelous place would be her home in the future to come. After a brief moment of contemplation, Qian made her own decision and expressed her genuine desire to formally join the expanding circle of the God Tree. She truly is a breath of fresh air. She's a plant after all. Meanwhile, in the hunting grounds of the Expeditionary Beast Unit, the transcendent Rank 1 mutated chameleon, which had been observing them since day one, finally made its move. The white tiger confronted it head-on but was met with a forceful strike from the chameleon's tongue. The mutated creature proved too powerful for their current levels. Back in the foggy gorge, the white tiger and the rest of the group luckily managed to survive the clutches of the transcendent chameleon. Yuzu received reports that his beasts had encountered the creature, but it had fled from the battle. Sparky explained that Emperor Alligator had wanted to join the fight, but the white tiger declined his assistance. Despite occasional mental slowness, the white tiger still possessed the pride of a king and desire to defeat the formidable enemy on his own. Respect to that, my guy. Yuzu promptly infused the heavily injured white tiger with precious life essence. Sparky continued, noting that something had changed in the gorge. There seemed to be significantly more trees than when they had left earlier. Yuzu clarified that he had been testing his newest ability, the power to create trees. However, he regretted that once he stopped supplying them with spiritual energy, they reverted to regular trees. To demonstrate, he instantly spawned a small tree before them. Sparky and the white tiger were mesmerized by this peculiar ability. Suddenly, the vigilant golden ant detected a strange aura in the distance. Reacting swiftly, it pushed its blinding speed to the limit and rushed toward the source of the anomaly. Behind the trees, a familiar humanoid silhouette came into view. Sparky wasted no time and launched a killing blow at the unknown presence in their territory. It turned out to be none other than Qian, hidden amidst the fog and trees. Her crimson vines instinctively protected her from Sparky's lethal attack. Someone must give Sparky a lot of chill pills, man. When Sparky finally had a chance to examine this situation closely, he confirmed that the anomalous figure was indeed Chin. He couldn't fathom an explanation for her bizarre form. Through her symbiosis with the malevolent plant, she had acquired a talent for life force manipulation. She could now freely control blood-colored vines for both offense and defense. Sparky withdrew, taking a moment to assess the situation. Yu simply informed everyone that Chin was their newest companion. She was now recognized as the sixth member of the 9 great beasts and would henceforth be referred to by her new name, Thorn. The plant mommy has been secured, let's go. Sparky, known for his disdain towards humans, vehemently disagreed with this announcement. In his view, humans could stay and work there, but nothing more. Accepting a human as an equal was beyond his comprehension. In his own twisted way, he declared that he would end Thorn to prove humans' weakness and their unsuitability to fight alongside them. Yu grew angry at Sparky's brazen attitude and called out the ant. Sparky froze, understanding the weight behind his master's words. The enraged god tree would not tolerate any form of defiance from Sparky or any of his subjects. Witnessing his master's fury, Sparky was terrified to even move, let alone harm Thorn. He rushed to his master's side, kneeling on one knee and profusely apologized for his careless actions and words. That's right, boy, bow down to the god tree. Yu lectured him, emphasizing that Thorn was different from the humans they knew. He hoped that from now on, everyone would gradually learn to understand one another. Perhaps even the stubborn golden ant might change his perspective in the future. Thorn was still adjusting to her new form, and standing alongside such powerful beasts made her uncomfortable. Sparky had calmed down, suppressing his hatred to comply with his master's wishes. Yu had underestimated just how deeply Sparky despised humanity. His hatred was rooted in something profound. He feared that without unity, leading the team effectively would be impossible. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the Foggy Mountain area, a diverse group of superhumans gathered with a common goal. Having already delved deep into the mountain, they had yet to catch a glimpse of the Emperor Alligator or even a single clue. When asked who had given them the mission to find the alligator's whereabouts, they replied that it didn't matter. As long as there was enough money on the table, they were willing to do the job. In this mission, there's no need to engage in combat, just provide the location. These mercenaries were driven solely by one thing: money. It was their sole concern. The muscular mercenaries surveyed the surrounding fog, rumored to be inhabited by fog beasts, doubting the veracity of the stories they had heard. Ro was just begging to be stomped by a fog dragon with that arrogance. Nevertheless, they pressed on with their search, realizing they might be close to their objective. Since the dawn of the evolution era, mercenaries had gained popularity as a new profession. With everything evolving at an alarming pace, a select group of talented humans had also evolved. These mercenaries relied on their enhanced combat abilities to offer their services to powerful individuals. It was a highly lucrative profession, capable of quickly amassing wealth for those with the necessary skills. It low-key sounds like a good career if you're strong enough. A few hours later, deep within the Foggy Mountains, the mercenary party came to a halt. They spotted a beautiful woman with peculiar red vines, harvesting fruits from a tree. In the serene surroundings, Thorn, with her exquisite beauty, was engrossed in plucking ripe fruits from a nearby tree. Olivia still whirled around her. She paid no heed to the group of mercenaries who had just spotted her from a distance. Would it be cannibalism if she eats the fruits? Her joy knew no bounds when she discovered an abundance of luscious fruits in the gorge. The very thought of collecting some for her superhuman friends would have been deprived of fresh fruits for an extended period. Immediately crossed her mind. She's too thoughtful, man. However, her peaceful endeavor was abruptly interrupted as the muscular silhouette of a mercenary swiftly approached, coming within inches of her. A single glance at him was enough to discern his nefarious intentions. The mercenary squad wallowed at their astonishing find, a rare encounter with a mutant like Thorn. It was only when she finally noticed the man standing beside her that panic gripped her, confronted with the presence of these unfamiliar and suspicious humans. Without warning, the burly man forcefully grabbed Thorn's delicate face, ruthlessly thrusting her against the tree trunk. Rendered unconscious by the sudden, brutal blow, Thorn became an even more significant prize in the eyes of the captor. This guy needs to go as soon as possible. To the shock of the others, the older mercenary reprimanded the man, but not out of concern for Thorn's well-being. Rather, he cautioned against disfiguring her face, as it would diminish her value on the black market. Apparently, there was a lucrative demand for rare mutant specimens such as her. This dude looks like Killu's grandfather. Go back to your own anime grandpa. The despicable blonde mercenary shamelessly proposed a twisted proposal to play with her maliciously, arguing that it would be permissible as long as they didn't inflict severe harm. The rest of the group eagerly joined in, seeking their share of sadistic amusement. However, the lone woman amidst the mercenaries interjected, attempting to steer them back to their primary mission, urging them to stay focused and not be distracted by other pursuits. Yet, as the woman caught a glimpse of Thorn's mesmerizing beauty, her demeanor took a dark turn. Her eyes gleamed with madness as she drew a knife, threatening to gouge out Thorn's eyes and leave her crippled for life. Regaining consciousness, Thorn pleaded desperately with the mercenaries to halt their sinister intentions. In an act of desperation, her protective red vines surged to life, effortlessly swatting away the assailants as if they were insignificant pests. Go girl, use vine whip. The muscular mercenary found himself impaled by the piercing red vines. Everyone was stunned by the sudden shift in Thorn's aura from weak to strong. Clearly, she was in an unstable state. The mercenaries regrouped, realizing that Thorn was a recent mutant with little control over her newfound abilities. They believed that by launching a coordinated assault, they could overwhelm and subdue her. With unfaltering determination, they charged towards Thorn, their actions synchronized with military precision. Overwhelmed by fear, Thorn found herself utterly defenseless against the onslaught, clueless about how to combat trained opponents single-handedly. Just as she braced herself for the mercenaries' relentless charge, a swift and incandescent golden streak sliced through the battlefield, targeting one of her assailants. It's our golden boy. In the blink of an eye, the mercenary group bore witness to one of their own losing his head at the hands of an unidentified assailant. The severed head lay separate from the body, while a familiar golden limb stood triumphantly atop the lifeless corpse. A whirlwind of emotions enveloped Thorn as she recognized the unexpected savior, the human bloodthirsty creature we all know and love as Sparky, who had arrived to defend his master's territory. Perceiving the peculiar sight of a golden mutant ant protecting a human mutant, the remaining members of the mercenary group struggled to comprehend the surreal scenario unfolding before their eyes. Realizing that his mission was merely to track the Emperor Alligator and not engage in combat, the older mercenary hastily attempted to flee. However, before his comrades could call out to him, he met the same fate as one of their fallen members earlier, rot in hell, old Perv. Witnessing yet another of their comrades meeting a headless demise in the blink of an eye, the woman mercenary switched to survival mode, her instincts taking over. Sparky refused to tolerate these contemptible humans trespassing arrogantly in their territory, determined to exact vengeance for any sacrilegious acts against his master's domain. He swore that none of them would leave the mountains alive that day. In a dazzling display of golden brilliance, Sparky tore through the air, striking his golden blade into the abdomen of another foe. Unwilling to stop there, he propelled himself like a missile, aiming straight for the last remaining member of the mercenary group. Desperately, the man fought back, his mechanical hand transforming into guns that relentlessly spewed countless rounds of ammunition. Undeterred by the barrage of bullets, Sparky's golden exoskeleton effortlessly deflected them as if they were insignificant projectiles. Sometimes we forget that every beast in the gorge is just built different. With one final swift dash and slash, he cleaved through the last man's stomach as though his flesh were as fragile as paper. The ground now littered with the lifeless bodies of the repulsive and brutal mercenaries. Suddenly, Thorn's attention was drawn to one of the mercenaries on the ground, whose tenuous grip on life resulted in blood cascading from his lips. Meanwhile, Sparky turned around to investigate the disturbance, only to be assaulted by a glaring burst of radiance. A grenade had been detonated point-blank range, engulfing the mutated golden ant in a devastating explosion. Struggling to escape the ensuing flames and smoke, Sparky emerged from the inferno in a weakened state. He fell for the classic trick. Injured and sprawled on the ground, he mirrored the fate of the mercenaries he had vanquished. His carelessness in ensuring the completion of his task might now cost him the use of his legs. Unexpectedly, the woman mercenary also clung to the remnants of life, her body bearing a grievous, potentially fatal wound. You must give props to her for tanking that massive wound. Clutching her knife with grim determination, her sole aim was to eliminate the injured beast subjected to this specialized grenade. With the last vestiges of her strength, she raised the blade, mustering every ounce of resolve to plunge it into the defenseless Sparky. The knife's tip hovered perilously close to ending the mutated golden ant's life. As tension reached its zenith, copious amounts of blood erupted into the air, painting a grim picture. With blood hitting the floor, the arduous battle finally reached its conclusion. The lifeless mercenary's eyes faded as a single crimson vine pierced through her skull and brain. Headshot. Thorn, without deliberate thought, successfully commanded one of her crimson vines to make a crucial play. Realizing the gravity of her actions, panic, relief, and shock flooded over her in a complicated mix. Moments later, the battle concluded, and the serene surroundings of the mountains returned as if nothing had happened. Amidst the battlefield, Thorn could be seen bawling her eyes out, crying like a child. She's climbing up the list of best girls. Sparky went to her side, scolding her to stop crying as she was being too noisy. One couldn't blame her, it was her first time taking the life, and she naturally felt horrified and horrible about her actions. Initially, she had merely accompanied her friends to the mountains to pick some spiritual herbs and earn a bit of money. Now, everything had turned extraordinarily. Her body had become mutated, and she had taken someone's life. Sparky became lost in thought, questioning why humans only feel a true sense of loss when it's the life of another human that ends. This ant is making me think philosophically. He used to be a simple and normal ant, but now he was a beast that had endured and survived constant torture and destruction from human experiments. He remarked that if Thorn had been captured by those mercenaries, her fate would undoubtedly be worse than what he had experienced. He reassured her that she had done the right thing, saving him. There was no need for her to feel guilty at all. Looking at the uncontrollably crying Qian Shin, he sincerely thanked her from the bottom of his cold, golden heart. That's called character development. Our boy is growing up. She cried even harder as just a few days ago, this little guy had threatened to kill her simply because she was human. Sparky told her to forget he had said such cruel things. Standing side by side, facing the beautiful scenery, he curiously asked if she ever thought about her family in the outside world, if she misses them to this day. A profound sadness washed over her as she revealed that she was an orphan with no family to come home to. Sparky looked at her and genuinely proclaimed that now she had one. Sparky has that family riz. Wait, that sounds wrong. Hearing this lifted her spirits, bringing her out of her shell. Her tears of pain and guilt just moments earlier. A glimmer of tears of joy at her newfound family rolled down her beautiful eyes. She had finally embraced her new form and her new home. Sparky caught a glance of her perfect beauty, and even a golden mutated ant couldn't help but become flustered by such a pretty sight. Not going to lie, I would have blushed too. Back at the gorge, Yuziu monitored the whole incident with vigilant eyes. He was surprised that he didn't even have to do anything this time. He was extremely pleased to see Qian Shin's heart fully open to her new life. In the human settlement created by Yuziu, Thorn, formerly known as Qian Shin, argued with her remaining friend who hadn't sworn loyalty to the God Tree. He couldn't believe she was making the life-changing decision with such confidence. She was determined to live her new life far from the past. She warned him to make plans for the future as well. The man was still conflicted, as unlike her, he had a family waiting for him to return. At this current day and age, the beginning of spiritual recovery had finally commenced. Inland cities were ravaged by beasts daily, and the death toll continued to rise. The most horrific disasters were experienced by coastal cities, as the world was hit by a frenzy of sea beasts. The death toll in the hotspots had even reached hundreds of thousands. I would hate to be a human in this world. During this time, humans dubbed this situation as the Dark Age. World leaders, military commanders, and other important decision-makers gathered around a round table to discuss crucial developments all over the world. The head of the China Federation initiated the discussion, raising the conclusion of the Spiritual Research Institute regarding the global sea beast frenzy. He demanded a further account of the current situation. According to the director of the Inland Spiritual Power Bureau of the China Federation, the concentration of spiritual power in the depths of the sea was rapidly increasing. Based on graphs and figures, the value of spiritual power in the deep sea had significantly risen over the past 6 months. Just give up at that point, bro. She explained that spiritual power could be compared to oxygen. In its pure form, oxygen is highly toxic, and the same goes for concentrated spiritual power. If a creature couldn't withstand the strong spiritual power, it would undoubtedly be poisoned to death. Consequently, countless deep-sea giants were forced to push up from the depths and take over shallow waters. Since shallow sea beasts couldn't face the fearsome monsters of the deep, they kept rushing towards coastal areas worldwide. As it stands today, the global sea beast frenzy cannot be avoided. General Zhou Jianjun of the China Federation anxiously inquired how much longer they would have to endure this frenzy. However, the answer simply terrified everyone in the room. The director of the Inland Spiritual Power Bureau was certain that this was merely the beginning. They had detected signs of spiritual energy rising not only in the deep seas but also deep inland. The so-called spiritual tide would come again, and the beasts of the continent would undergo a frightening second mutation. Coastal cities would be plagued by sea beasts, while inland cities would be attacked by savage beasts. That's a double checkmate. The inland presented a completely different problem from the coastal areas, as heavy and nuclear weapons couldn't be used to avoid catastrophic collateral damage. What awaited everyone in the world was a land-based fight, a war that would be even more terrifying than the one in the sea. Hearing the honest truth of their future sent shivers down the spines of every world leader present. In addition to this new information, the head of the China Federation had something to show everyone. Back at the gorge, on the other side of the world, Yuziyu was intensely diving underground. His main rig had reached a depth of 10,000 meters. As he descended, a sense of unease and oppression filled him, as if the world they knew was facing an unprecedented catastrophe. Ro was digging towards hell. The spirit of Xiao Qing accompanied him in the downward excavation as they grew closer to their destination. They were so close that they could see the ground emitting a strong, unnatural light. The two dived into the bizarre light as it consumed them with brilliance. This was it. Under the depths of the earth, something vividly brilliant was happening. The Rook and the Spirit arrived at their destination. The world of light exuded an aura and power unlike anything else. This was the spiritual tide itself. The spiritual power in the air was so thick it became tangible. Yuziyu called out to Xiaoqing, informing her that amidst all the current happenings, a new cycle of evolution had begun. It depicted a golden ant protecting a woman while speaking perfect human language. Moreover, the woman in the video seemed to be either a mutant plant or a mutant human. The head of the China Federation explained that this was a clip transmitted by a mercenary through a machine implanted in his eye. This man has cameras everywhere, dude. He's probably watching us right now. The clip contained vital information. Everyone in the room should have heard the words spoken by the ant. It had clearly shouted "Master" at one point. He concluded that besides the sudden appearance of the 8 peregrine falcons during the alligator hunt, he suspected that someone or something was behind everything, running the show. And that included the existence of the fog beasts. His leader is too smart for his own good. Yuziyu is currently holding a curiously high-tech device in his hand, inspecting it, and concluding that it is indeed a spirituality shield. He hurriedly and angrily crushed it as this tiny device was responsible for interfering with his fog spread ability. He did not expect human technology to progress so fast to the point where they can develop devices that can interfere with spiritual energy. He worried that if they continue their momentum, he won't be able to sense life forms by using fog spread anymore. This development is proving to be quite troublesome. In front of him appeared Sparky, loyal and dependable. He tasked the golden mutant ant with calling a meeting for his inner circle. That's when the Emperor Alligator suddenly contacted him through telepathy, informing him about some bad news brewing on the other side of the gorge. It seems like there is a large number of strange disturbances appearing in the atmosphere as of late. In the sky, where the sky beasts soar, a very unnatural event is taking place. Airborne attack units fill the skies as the military is seemingly sparing no expense in this mission they are undertaking. While attack helicopters and fighter jets scour the air, the land is being flattened by countless tanks and artillery vehicles. The loud and coordinated march of soldiers can be heard echoing throughout the whole area. With the number of aircraft, heavy-duty land war machines, and the sheer number of foot soldiers on the ground, it seems like the Federation is gearing up for a war of historical proportions. Humans are finally making some smart moves. Every soldier in the line has a mix of anxiety and determination on their faces as they know they are about to head to their possible deaths. One particular aircraft landed on the ground, and its doors slowly opened to deploy the forces inside. Just one step out of the aircraft, and you can already tell that these troops are not your run-of-the-mill soldiers. This was the Transcendent Force Genetic Modification Department. Handcuffed humans that have mutated with the properties of various beasts disembarked from the aircraft as they readied themselves for the war that is about to commence. Some of the mutants that stood out were a man that resembles a vampire in a cloak and a woman with cat ears and tails. The familiar-looking cat woman looks particularly unhinged right from the get-go. They got crazy cat girls in the army. The enlistment numbers are about to go up. On the other end of the site, another aircraft deployed the superhumans of the Federal Transcendental Force Academy. One look at these humans, and you can easily tell that each one of them is a war-torn veteran with a lot of field experience. Right at the edge of the woods, the beast silently watched the deployment of such an impressive human force. Even the Expeditionary Beast Unit watched carefully from the safety of the fog. No matter how fierce these beasts are, they can still feel the undeniable pressure that the humans have been exerting as they pour their resources towards the mountains. Bald Head is already ready for the smoke. The already hateful Sparky was not pleased with this intrusion that the humans are daring to do. White Tiger could not help but let out a fierce roar as he's battle-ready for the conflict to come. One of the superhumans took in the scenery of the gorge. He looked at the highest peak of the foggy mountains from afar. The place they are aiming to conquer is certainly something to behold. After receiving reports from his beasts, Yuziyu was put into crisis mode as the humans are moving faster than he expected. He worries that something might have happened to Xiaoqing, as she would have reported this development to him as soon as possible under normal circumstances. He knows that with such a large army and ridiculous resources being used, this is not just about catching the Emperor Alligator. It seems that they have another, bigger purpose for this operation. 5 days ago, in the roundtable meeting, the head of the China Federation proposed to everyone the mission to find out just who is in true control of the Misty Mountains. This proposal is hard to digest for the already overwhelmed leaders. They rightfully fear the possibility of someone or something that can domesticate these powerful mutant beasts. The director of the Inland Spiritual Power Bureau of the China Federation is considering this as a very real possibility. They heard the ant in the video speaking human language perfectly. This is not something that a beast could learn by itself. General Zhou Jianjun also presented the possibility of this being a dangerous and powerful organization, and not just one person. They cannot rule out the possibility that the Emperor Alligator is also intelligent, and that they might have possibly undergone human genetic modification technology. There are currently 8 red zones in the interior areas of the Earth. Currently, Beiyu Gorge is the most dangerous area in their estimates. To add to that, the second wave of spiritual tide is inevitably coming soon. They only have 10 days before that event. They absolutely must decimate the mountains before the beasts inside have the chance to evolve once again. The head of the China Federation was lost in thought as he ponders how they should proceed with the issue at hand. He ordered someone to come inside the meeting room seriously. A man with an impressive stature entered the room and captured the attention of everyone present, Yan Gao Yuan. He's about to tell them the details of the Beiyu Gorge battle plan. In 5 days, they'll launch a full offensive on the beasts before they recover their spiritual power and a second evolution through the spiritual tide. Meanwhile, at the Transcendental Research Institute, Xiaoqing's mentor had diligently and successfully synthesized a mutant elixir. With this, he believes that his ace pupil, Xiaoling's fire control, will be even more powerful. He plans to send this product to her as soon as possible. That's when the familiar face of the bitter loser woman appeared behind him. She is full of resentment towards the instructor, as the whole research institute seems to favor Xiaoling compared to everyone else. She feels insignificant and believes that the instructor would possibly let everyone here die as long as Xiaoling is safe. Yan Gao Yuan laid out the full scope of the battle plan that he devised to the round table. He was immediately met with resistance, as his plan would require resorting to such extreme methods, and even if they win, they will gain nothing out of it. Another criticism is that they were using a gargantuan number of resources and troops, way more than they have ever used before. He reassured them with a simple fact: if they lose, there will be more serious consequences than they can imagine. He continued that every single beast in the canyon will be completely out of control after the spiritual tide. Realizing the gravity of the situation they're in, the leaders could not help but feel a shiver down their spines. Besides, they are treating this mission with utmost secrecy. All battle plans are kept secret from all ranks below Major. And finally, Yan Gao Yuan requested that one person must absolutely be included in this battle plan. If the beast that stirred up the fog is human, then they must pick out someone with the corresponding abilities to deal with any unforeseen circumstances. Everyone already knows who the person he has in mind. The vital part of this battle plan is the man with scars through each of his eyes, the enigmatic General Li. This guy is not surviving 1 versus 1 against the God Tree. After the crucial meeting, the surrounding cities of the entire Federation built protective walls. Whether they would be useful or not is still uncertain. The least they could do is resist the charge of some weak beasts. They're going full-on attack on Titan. In another place, in Z's city, we travel to a huge people's hospital. Xiaoqing is hurriedly and angrily rushing. She forcefully opened the sliding door of the hospital room. What she saw inside was her mentor, who had been nothing but kind to her at the Transcendental Research Institute, lying on the hospital bed with fatal injuries. The other research staff already knew that it was a bad idea to let the hot-tempered ace see her mentor in this state. He's barely clinging on to life, becoming increasingly weak with every passing moment. She's experiencing a rage that cannot be suppressed. Back in the research facility, it turned out that the bitter woman had gone ahead and snatched the elixir synthesized for Xiao Ling. She was immediately consumed by its power as she struggled to fight with all her might. The elixir was made from the inner crystal of the fire leopard. Although she wasn't a fire elementalist, her body would inevitably mutate. The instructor hurriedly ordered her to spit it out for her own safety. In response, she struck the kind-hearted man with her claws, critically injuring him. She better get used to the heat. She's going to hell soon. The deranged woman named Yan Langling was then taken into custody by the genetic unit of the military after she fainted. However, she received a lighter sentence since she was under the influence of the elixir when she hurt the instructor. She is now imprisoned and will soon be deployed to the front lines. He started to wake up, calling out to Xiao Ling. He took out the other half of the elixir, having managed to defend it for his favorite pupil. She urged him not to talk too much as it was clear he was still in pain. He reminded her that she was still young with a bright future ahead. She didn't have to blame anyone for causing him harm. He didn't want her to ruin that good future just for him. Xiao Ling's rage could not be contained towards the girl who had sent her instructor into this state. But reluctantly, she promised the instructor to do as he said. He felt at peace, and now he could rest assured. His words started to trail off slowly as he closed his eyes. He took his last breath as the life-supporting apparatuses indicated that the instructor had indeed passed away. He was a real one, R.I.P. The researchers frantically called out to the doctor as Xiao Ling stood still. Inside her, a grudge burned that could not be extinguished, even with her promise to the instructor. This was the face of a woman ready for vengeance. She held the elixir in her hands, the last thing the kind-hearted instructor had bestowed upon her. The thing that ultimately cost him his life defending. She clenched it in her fist, refusing to let it go. She walked out of the hospital with a singular goal in mind, but she was interrupted by an officer inviting her to the headquarters of the Second Army. She was ordered to go to a new combat location as soon as possible. The first Transcendent group had already arrived, and she was part of the second group to be deployed. She had to go with the officer right away. When asked about the battlefield, he stonewalled her, as the details of the mission would be discussed later. They flew over in a military chopper, and the view of the terrain became increasingly familiar to her. She had finally confirmed that they were headed to the Bayou Gorge, the home for Master. Countless awakened soldiers lined up with utmost discipline as they prepared in the place where the war of humanity and beasts would take place. Yan Gao Yuan stood imposingly in front of the monstrous force he had arranged for this conflict. He promptly introduced himself as the supreme commander of the entire operation. Xiaoqing was caught off guard as she was suddenly thrust into a complicated spot. This operation marked the first time humans had launched an attack against the inland beasts. Their goal on paper was to deal with the fog beasts and the emperor alligator in the perilous Beiyu Gorge. In addition to that, they had to eradicate the powerful beasts living within the treacherous mountainous areas. Looking at the impressive force of humanity, he proclaimed that their goal was to kill enemies they had never encountered before. He knew the enemy's strength was beyond their wildest dreams. He warned them that this would be a brutal battle. After all, the opponent they were facing was a mutant beast that could easily destroy fighter jets. This time, 30,000 personnel would be deployed for the operation, hoping to overwhelm the enemy with their massive numbers. However, with this tactic, the casualties on their side would be severe. But all that mattered was winning. It was the only way humanity could survive and live freely on this land. They were the first and last line of defense and offense against the inland beasts. And thus, the code name for this operation was the Hunt. This was his commander Erwin's speech. Only real ones knows that speech by heart. Every single soldier steeled their resolve as they readied themselves to charge into the jaws of the beasts. Xiaoqing knew that with this type of operation, something wasn't right, and the Federation must know something. She had to hurry back and report to her master. Suddenly, another officer approached her as she was being summoned by the infamous General Li alone. At the operations department, Xiaoqing stood before the general. He informed her that he had read her profile and knew that her hometown was at the foot of the Beiyu Gorge. He also knew that she and her sister had been attacked by mutant beasts in the Misty Mountain, and that she survived but her sister wasn't as fortunate. With this knowledge, he believed she should be familiar with the road leading to the center of the Misty Mountain, and more importantly, she must desire revenge. She tried to reason that she couldn't remember much of what happened before the attack. She tried to get to the point and ask if that was all the general wanted. He extended a proposition to her. A few moments later, using her spirit, she managed to slip away and immediately reported to Yuziu. It turned out that General Li wanted to take her in as a disciple, and she said yes. Yuziu knew that with Xiao Ling's talent and potential, ordinary people would want to take her in as a disciple. It was good for them to be able to join the inner circle of such a big shot. She informed him that the attack by humans would happen the next day. She was unsure whether they could win against this powerful assault. He reassured her that there was always a solution to a problem. Everybody wanted to live, but some things just couldn't be obtained through wishes. If he could have stayed silent and neutral, he would have. But that was impossible now. With the human forces at bay, the gloves were off. He called the attention of every beast in the gorge. Every single beast, superhuman, and mutant in the gorge had a bloodthirsty and determined look in their eyes. Today, they were going to face a brutal battle. It wasn't just a battle, it was a war. If they lost this war, everyone would die. And even if they won this conflict, they would still lose some companions along the way. But as a price for those who survived, humans would never dare to disturb them anymore. So, everyone had to be prepared to scratch, bite, claw, fight, and die with all their strength against humanity. Tomorrow's battle was a decisive one. Tomorrow's war would determine their entire future. Every single beast roared with passion as they were ready to lay down their lives to protect their future in the gorge. The primates howled, the peregrine falcons snarled, and Yuziu calmly braced himself for the collision of different worlds. At a distance, the remaining human who hadn't sworn loyalty aimed to use the chaos of the war to leave the mountains quietly. With everything locked and loaded, the 49,355 representatives of humanity were about to go against the 285 combat beasts of the Beiyu Gorge. On a bright and sunny day at the foot of the Beiyu Gorge, tens of thousands of military personnel gathered along with humanity's state-of-the-art artillery and heavy-duty assault vehicles. Xiao Ling observed the true scope of the human force, and the number of troops was much higher than she expected. A battle-scarred awakened soldier approached her to explain the format of their attack. Their combat team would be divided into 3 groups. The other 2 teams comprised the majority of their fighting force in terms of numbers. To prevent mutant beasts from escaping or sneaking into the city, they deployed a large number of troops to surround the 4 main hills of the area. Another soldier chimed in, expressing frustration with the amount of manpower dedicated to this mission. With almost 50,000 troops, he thought it was too excessive and overkill. The commitment to this expedition seemed crazy. The battle-scarred soldier vehemently disagreed. To him, it was absolutely necessary to form such a large coalition. He had already witnessed the strength of the beasts firsthand at the zoo before becoming awakened. This man has some backstory for his scars. Back then, a mere beginner-level 4th stage awakened mutant antelope wiped out a rescue unit of nearly 100 men. It was just a beginner-level 4th stage awakened mutant beast, and it caused catastrophic damage. Not to mention the most dangerous beasts they were bound to encounter in the mountains, especially in the interior area of the gorge, where a mere beginner-level 4th stage mutant would be considered mere food. The newbies are starting to hesitate if they truly took the right career path. They had no choice but to overwhelm the beastly opponents with numbers and equipment. It was their only way to reduce casualties in the grand scheme of the war. Hearing all this information, Xiao Ling's face revealed a complicated expression. She thought back to the remarkable power of her master and contemplated the number of human troops in 3 different points. She wasn't sure anymore if her beloved master could weather the coming storm. The god tree and the great beasts are looking like the biggest menaces to society, though. In the commander's tent at the base camp, Yan Gao Yuan briefed the rest of the officers on their plan of attack. As mentioned earlier, this operation would be divided into 3 directions. The middle troops would be the main offensive force, while the left and right flanks would encircle the enemy. They would initiate the operation by using ZT-Z999 tanks to bomb their way forward and pave the way for the infantry. The awakened troops would then act as the main attackers, carrying out the encirclement and suppression. All combat soldiers would be equipped with spiritual power shielding devices to conceal their spiritual power and scent. This method would make it harder for the beasts to detect them. Yan Gao Yuan summoned his troops. As the preparation time had elapsed, they have exactly 24 hours to execute. The hunt had officially begun. This war arc is about to go crazy, boys. The tanks from all sides of the gorge readied their heavy artillery and unleashed the culmination of human ingenuity. Each resounding shot echoed throughout the area, destroying the obstructing woods in the path of their unstoppable charge toward the main battlefield. The left flank forces rained down hellfire on the mountains, showing no mercy to any wildlife that resided in the massive area. The forces on the right flank utilized their airborne units, causing fiery explosions that transformed the landscape. They're going hard against the wrong trees. Some soldiers worried about the scale of bombing and wildfire they were causing on the perimeter. However, they had come prepared with a large number of firefighting units stationed around the mountains. The bombing served not only to clear the way to the gorge, but also to drive many beasts into a single location ahead. Suddenly, an imposing voice and an even more imposing figure interrupted the discussions among the foot soldiers. The man strongly urged them to focus solely on their mission and not think about anything else. The foot soldiers were shocked and scared by the appearance of this man. General Li, with his gigantic height, was truly menacing in every detail. This man is just the Giga Chad template. After all, he was one of the strongest generals in the Federation, a single man with the strength of an army. Arguably, he was the most powerful transcendent among everyone in the Federation. Let's see how he does against real power. The soldiers were confused as to why the general had jumped right into the front lines at such a high altitude. But when the smoke from the explosive bombardment cleared, a mountain that had been obliterated came into view. Every officer called for the attention of their troops. They were now ready to advance into the battlefield, filled with determination and courage, facing either death or glory. However, the fiery determination of the military was quickly extinguished as a giant silhouette appeared above their heads. It was none other than Yuziu's roots, disrupting the march and destroying the landscape with sheer force. Countless troops were crushed or flung away by this display of primal strength. That is how you draw the first blood properly. At the same time, gray and foggy creatures landed on the battlefield. Yuziu's fog beasts materialized, even more ferocious than before, as their howls filled the ears of the advancing humans. Xiao Ling immediately recognized that her master had finally arrived on the scene. Yuziu, in his draconic form with his roots and various forms of materialized fog beasts, towered over the tiny specks of the human military forces. This scene is right out of Naruto. Yan Gao Yuan panicked at the report that they were already under attack from the front. Not only their main force, but also the left wing, where the awakened soldiers were currently being ravaged by savage fog beasts of different forms and unfathomably strong tree roots. A similar sight was taking place on the right wing. They reported to the headquarters that they were under attack by unidentified creatures in the fog, and their biggest threat was a winding and massive creature resembling a tree. Yan Gao Yuan looked at the entire battlefield and was taken aback by such a different start than what he had envisioned. Yu Ziyu was now in his most ruthless state. With these detestable humans trying to break in and take away their peaceful lives, he would not let them get off easy. The stressed-out Supreme Commander, Yan Gao Yuan, ordered an accurate report on the number of fog beasts and monster trees. He also called for air support on the left and right wings. This dude is going to pass away not because of the war, he'll probably kick the bucket due to stress. They went all in, putting anti-aircraft guns on standby while releasing incendiary bombs. The explosions almost reached the fog beasts, which were susceptible to fire. Yu Ziyu's sturdy and almost indestructible roots came to the rescue, tanking multiple rounds of anti-aircraft fire. In response to the firepower of the humans, the barbarism of the primate faction was unleashed upon the infantry. A large group of mutant gorillas suddenly appeared on the flank of the foot soldiers. Let's go King Kong faction. These apes possessed unfathomable strength and viciousness, now facing the armor-piercing bullets of the human soldiers. With a devilishly smart move, the larger apes in the group started digging out massive boulders from the rocky ground of the mountain, while the smaller ones rushed with unpredictable speed and pace. The boulders were tossed at the tanks, causing massive explosions at the flank of the human soldiers. The gorilla faction didn't waste this opportunity and charged with full rage and ferocity. Zooming out from the battlefield, the air forces could be seen arriving at the flanks for support, but Yu Ziyu's massive root was ready to match their forces. He was extremely pleased with how effective he had been in dealing with and halting the initial advance of the impressive army. That's when the Emperor Alligator reached out to him, informing him that a few mice had silently broken in. He assured his subordinates that everything would be okay. No matter how elite and covert those mice were, there was already someone ready to deal with them. If the humans have shooters, he has even wilder ones. The elite forces sneaking inside the foggy mountains maintained their vigilance in the unfamiliar woods. Suddenly, a laser sight caught the presence of a vicious-looking beast ready to pounce at any second. It was none other than Bald Head himself. When the light was shed upon their direction, it was revealed that this was the entire Expeditionary Beast unit, a force with the strength and madness to conquer a whole section of the mountain range and hunt countless beasts. These guys are about to go nutty with their kill-death ratio. This time around, the Federation has deployed around 50,000 troops. These numbers consist of 100 tanks, 75 helicopters, 1,000 awakened troops, and 2,000 genetically modified soldiers. Most of the numbers are composed of China Federation's strongest military force. To top it all off, they have General Li on the battlefield. They've already established that simply finding the Emperor Alligator is not their real mission. They are aiming for the root of it all. They must find the mastermind behind the beast organization of the Bayou Gorge. To avoid the direct attack of the fog beasts when the army gathers, they had specially arranged the troops to gather outside the range of the fog. But now, the fog itself had traveled towards the front line. Even though they have no idea how the enemies accomplished this seemingly impossible feat, one thing is for sure: the enemy boss is on a whole other level. Yan Gao Yuan estimates that they are bound to face something in the transcended rank 1 or above in terms of pure combat ability. This man does not know just how screwed they really are. They have 23 hours and 41 minutes left in the battle. Until the very last moment, they must gather as much information as possible. For clarity's sake, this is the sketch of Yu Ziyu's forces scattered around the Bayou Gorge. On the left wing, the foot soldiers desperately emptied their ammunition on the opponents in front of them. It was none other than Thorn. She had finally gained total control of her crimson vines as she blazed through the human troops. With each smack of her vines, a soldier became out of commission for the rest of the war with heavy injuries. The humans could see her as nothing but a monster as they continued their hail of bullets without hesitation, despite her humanoid appearance. Coming from the flank, a ferocious jaws stretched open as a gigantic figure of the white tiger descended upon the fighting soldiers. Blood spurted out everywhere as the white tiger finally started going on a rampage for his bloody feast. Thorn and the White Tiger, the teacher, and the dumb student teamed up. They had to remain careful with their moves, as they were massively outnumbered by the enemies ahead. The White Crane hurriedly rushed to their side to warn them of something big incoming. It was a powerful missile bound to crash and explode on them. It swiftly made contact with the area they were standing in, and a loud detonation echoed throughout the mountains. The supergenetic modification team duo watched as the beasts in front of them were swallowed up by a massive blast. The detestable woman Yan Lang Ling had reached beginner rank 8, while the lion man Shizi was at beginner rank 9. They were already celebrating the deaths of the opponents standing in the way of their advancement. She even joked that the White Tiger's skin was hers for the taking. Why did they have to make the cat girl evil? That's when she was taken aback by the sight in front of her. The rank 9 White Tiger, rank 7 Thorn, and the duo of rank 6 Tempest Wolves stood their ground unscathed from the destructive force of the missile. The Lion Man, Shizi, became even more fired up as he admired the opponents in front of him. They had survived a cannon missile that was specially developed to deal with beasts. He did not expect them to still be alive, let alone uninjured after taking it head-on. I've told you guys 1,000 times, these beasts are just built different. His eyes were fixated on the ferocious-looking White Tiger, the king of the beasts. Yan Lang Ling proposed that they should capture the woman. With this method, they would surely be able to get the Mastermind to show up. With an agreement that they would split the White Tiger's skin and the woman, Shizi readied himself for a fight between two kings as he transformed into a monstrous lion. Meanwhile, in another part of the battlefield, a stick traveled in a forceful trajectory. It was the gold silk monkey brandishing his stick toward a soldier's crotch. "I can feel your pain, soldier man." The war armor boar, on the other hand, was drop-kicking the troops like he was in an exhibition wrestling match. Lastly, Bald Head was running all over the place with a speed so fast that he was dodging bullets mid-air. The foot soldiers were starting to panic as none of their shots were landing no matter how hard they tried, and the beast was slowly getting closer to them. Bald Head finished his rush with a booty smack toward the soldier's face. The disrespect is unreal. That's a stinky finisher. The three Beast Stooges had become a deadly trio when it comes to dispatching troops. After all, they had gained plenty of experience fighting beasts in the mountains. Just like a wholesome group of friends, they celebrated their victory with a cheerful high five. As they were leaving the area to patrol another place, the gold silk monkey noticed something fishy amongst the bushes out of the corner of his eye. Coming off from a decisive victory against the foot soldiers, he immediately and confidently jumped towards the bushes as he readied a stick strike, like he always did. While midair, he realized his mistake as the figure in the bushes came into view. It was a man who was part of the Super Being team. He had purple hair and massive scorpion tail growing from his back. That's a whole villain. The gold silk monkey was too late in identifying that he had just made a huge blunder with his overconfidence as a scorpion tail stab was already upon him. He tried his best to guard against the brunt of the tail's force as the man smiled confidently at him. The gold silk monkey flew back to his friends with minimal injury, but he was in a worse condition overall. He was stabbed by the scorpion's tail, and the venom was already circulating through his body, judging by the looks of the wound. The man claimed that this is the strongest venom of all the venomous scorpions out there. In just a minute, the gold silk monkey would die. Hearing this angered Bald Head, and he did not waste any time rushing at the limits of his speed. He swiftly locked onto the man from the flank. As he was rushing with unparalleled rage and aggressiveness, someone managed to keep up with him. It was a man with a thick yellow aura, running side by side with him, praising his exceptional speed. It's Overman, the Gold Flash on their team. The man promptly grabbed Bald Head midway through his rush and forcefully sent him crashing through the floor like it was light work. Another member of the Super Being team descended from above, wielding a massive spherical hammer. She was coming in with a bang, her heavy smash locked and loaded towards the already poisoned gold silk monkey. Fortunately, the war armor boar managed to take the heavy smash squarely to his head, protecting his weakened brother from being crushed on the ground. He gritted his teeth at the pain of taking such a heavy attack literally head-on. The Super Being team trio stood at a distance as they easily gained the upper hand just like that. The lightning-fast older man is the beginner rank 8 Lei Su. The freakishly strong cute woman is the beginner rank 7 Yoon Chui, And lastly, the venomous scorpion hybrid is the beginner rank 6 Dushi. The beginner rank 8 bald head, beginner rank 7 war armor boar, and gold silk monkey were suddenly torn down from their high spirits and driven to a corner by such an effective series of ambushes. Seizing the opportunity as the two beasts were badly injured, the Super Being Team trio saw it fit to bring the battle to its conclusion. They rushed towards the beasts with everything they had. Without hesitation, Bald Head took the initiative to meet the rushing team midway. He had finally activated his thunderous ability. Bald Head will clutch this. He has that dog in him. He jumped right above the trio as the man mocked him for daring to meet them head-on, being just a little guy. Bald Head simply responded by concentrating all of his thunder energy into a single attack, screaming wildly at his opponents. The Super Being Team trio was enveloped in a high-voltage blast of electricity. They were stunned and slowly paralyzed by the fierce attack. You really gave them the Pikachu treatment. All of them had the same thought as they were being slowly fried. They could not believe that a honey badger could use lightning to this degree. Seizing the chance to finish the job while the Super Being Team trio was paralyzed, the War Armor Boar and Gold Silk Monkey rushed for the opponents. With everything they had in the tank, forceful strikes landed on two of the men, while Bald Head dealt the final blow against the freakishly strong woman. Locusts are arthropods with green or yellowish-brown bodies, and there are more than 1,000 species in the world. Are we watching National Geographic right now? A single locust is not harmful to human beings. It can be killed by conventional means. But that's only true against one. When human beings face a plague of thousands of locusts, no matter how powerful humans are, under the swarm of those tiny insects, one will feel overwhelmingly hopeless. Back in the battlefield, the Super Being Team trio was knocked out cold by the combined desperation of War Armor Boar, Gold Silk Monkey, and Bald Head. Despite their victory, Gold Silk Monkey is still facing a fatal problem as he coughs heavily. He limped towards the scorpion tail that stung and poisoned him to his current weakened state. Extreme absorption is a unique innate ability of monkeys, giving them the ability to absorb all beneficial substances from other sources. However, once toxins invade their bodies, the same ability strongly rejects the toxic substances, as there is no way to naturally purify toxins circulating inside. Extreme absorption undoubtedly makes Gold Silk Monkey's condition even more painful. He's on his last legs as he struggles to even stand or breathe. To add to their misfortune, it seems like the human troop reinforcements have finally arrived at their location. The soldiers quickly identified that the beasts in front of them knocked down the awakened force ahead. Without question, they started raining down bullets towards the already injured beast party. They cannot let them escape now. Thankfully, normal bullets are useless against them as the balance of such weak ammunition only serves to annoy Bald Head. The soldiers quickly adapted as they tried to switch to the special bullets in their arsenals, having identified the trio as high-level beasts. Bald Head did not give them room to brace themselves as he was already charging up his electricity once again. Most of the troops were naturally rendered out of commission from such a strong shock, while the others were subjected to the blunt force of War Armor Boar's wild charge. Gold Silk Monkey remained still at the back as he was slowly dying from the scorpion venom. Suddenly, a commanding figure appeared right behind him. There was a transcendent human who had his attack locked and loaded against the defenseless, injured monkey. He brought his hand down, aiming squarely at the Gold Silk Monkey. He was full of rage and contempt as the killing intent in his strike would surely claim a life when it landed. Gold Silk Monkey had nowhere to go. Suddenly, War Armor Boar came out of nowhere and at blinding speed. He positioned himself to shield his brother against a powerful killing strike. He gritted his teeth as he felt the attack piercing through his thick defenses. Gold Silk Monkey watched in horror as his best buddy, his brother, and his partner in crime jumped in front of a horrific killing blow to protect him. Tears started to well up in his sad and scared eyes. Bald Head saw this development while encircled by soldiers, and even he could not handle the sight of his beloved friend being pierced through. The man punched a hole clean through the War Armor Boar and clutched his heart right in his hand. With a forceful grip, he painfully took the life of a magnificent beast. Rest in peace, he was a real one until the end. The War Armor Boar lay lifeless in front of his killer and the Gold Silk Monkey. It slowly sunk in that his most precious friend just sacrificed himself in front of him. Emotions welled up all over his body just as the venom in his system. Bald Head got distracted by the plight of his brothers and was taken aback by a bright light coming out of nowhere. Another awakened soldier with a mutant hand capable of producing high-powered laser beams appeared on the battlefield and hit Bald Head with a critical strike. Along with the regular soldier reinforcements, the super being team slowly poured into the foggy gorge. All they wanted was destruction and death upon the beasts of the mountains. Gold Silk Monkey had lost all reason due to his grief. While the venom circulated around his system painfully, he still tried to charge at the incoming enemies with his simple wooden stick. What greeted him was a rain of special bullets coming from the reinforcement troops. Thankfully, the tenacious Bald Head managed to tank a laser beam to his body. He hurriedly grabbed his buddy to desperately make a run for it. They immediately established quite a bit of distance between themselves and the soldiers, but these troops were not going to let them escape easily at all. While they were desperately fleeing for their lives, Gold Silk Monkey could not stop crying as he could not accept losing his brother. Bald Head was doing his best to stay composed and keep on running despite a severe injury in his leg. That point-blank laser beam really did a number on him. With the pain of his injury and the pain of losing a friend, he was barely holding it together himself. Humans are done for at this point. Two small but brilliant lights with a golden and blue hue ravaged around the unsuspecting soldiers all over the place. It was none other than the insect faction, Sparky and Blue Mantis. If they kept running at this unbelievably fast pace, they would exhaust themselves quickly. But in Sparky's mind was one thing and one thing only. There are humans in the mountains, and he must kill every single one of them. I'm on board with Sparky's hater energy now. The two charged through the woods like deadly arrows. On the other side of the battlefield, White Tiger was not in the best condition either. He stood alongside Thorn, both bloodied and injured due to the intense battle against the human troops. In exchange for their injuries, they had already killed over 100 human soldiers while keeping up and injuring the super genetic modification duo. They had gone crazy with pure viciousness. Thorn, White Tiger, White Crane, and a single Tempest Wolf stood among hundreds of corpses. The Lion Man thought that this force would not last long anymore as there was only one wolf left, while everyone else's injuries were not light at all. He also noticed that White Tiger kept on protecting the mutant girl while they fought. They could use her as bait to finally deal with every single one of the beasts. Thorn could already tell that the White Tiger was running out of gas in his tank, and he wouldn't last long. The Pregus shells that landed on them caused a lot of damage. They panted and struggled to even stand straight. She knew that if it wasn't for White Tiger lasting this long despite running out of energy quite some time ago, they would have been caught already. Suddenly, even more awakened reinforcement forces arrived on the battlefield. They were being led by a familiar face from the super genetic modification team. This vampire-looking man berated the Lion Man Shi for having such a hard time dealing with a tiger. He looked back at the vampire-looking man named Gullah, a mixture of fear and relief washing over him just from the presence of this guy. The already discouraged Thorn was sent into an even deeper despair as she saw the reinforcements arrive. She also sensed that the guy named Gullah had a huge spiritual amount in his body. Only her master, the God Tree himself, could deal with this mutant, the genetic transcendent Gullah. Feed this man garlic and he'll probably die. He ordered the troops to just keep on attacking as they had been doing. The beast squad would fall sooner or later. This time around, every single awakened soldier was charging in for the kill. There was no way that the White Tiger and the rest of the party could take another full-force charge from these reinforcements. But White Tiger was just too tenacious. He alone met their charge and promptly latched onto one unfortunate soul as he crushed him with a powerful jaw and unbelievably sharp teeth. The White Crane and their remaining Tempest Wolf did not give up either as they slay their fair share of awakened soldiers. Even the docile Thorn did not show any mercy to anyone that came within her strike zone. The crazy cat girl Yan Langling took advantage of the commotion of the battlefield and threw 2 flash bombs towards Thorn. She was enveloped in a blinding light, stunning her in place and halting her crimson vines. Throwing flashbangs in an open field with your teammates is crazy. Yan Langling's hand transformed into nefarious claws as she aimed to take down Thorn. She did not waste a second and brandished her claws. Heavy artillery missiles rained down hellfire from above, decimating the airborne units of the military. The primate faction was forced to endure and dodge the full brunt of the explosions pouring down upon them. The infantry on the ground observed with maximum anxiety as they tried to catch a glimpse of whether the monstrous beasts had been blown up or not. Contrary to the foot soldiers' wishes, the primates were safe and sound, as bloodthirsty as ever. They sought asylum at Yuzu's roots as soon as the missiles were released. The roots and the beasts remained unscathed despite the best efforts of humanity's technology. Realizing that the apes were unharmed, the soldiers promptly tried their best to hinder the beast charge by unleashing a hail of bullets upon them. Meanwhile, in the air, the peregrine falcon faction had finally arrived on the scene. They did what they did best, flying at incredible speeds and eliminating every single airborne unit of the human force. Yuzu sneered, knowing that missiles, explosives, or any of the human forces could never penetrate him, just as he was boasting about his resilience. A decisive step could be heard just a few meters from him. A fearsome silhouette, with extremely powerful proportions, slowly approached him. The figure was a human with 2 scars on his eyes, showing no hint of panic or worry. Yuzu celebrated that, finally, a human had reached his main body in this ongoing war. We're finally seeing another boss fight. Let's go. Of course, this so-called human was none other than General Li, the most powerful transcendent of the Federation. Back in the intense battlefield, Yan Langling forcefully thrust her sharp claws towards Thorn's body. Blood spurted everywhere as she utilized every muscle in her body to pierce through. She exerted so much force that she lifted Thorn into the air, charging through the battlefield until their momentum was halted by a massive tree. Thorn suffered a grievous wound at the side of her body, bearing the full brunt of Yan Langling's ferocious attack. The insane cat girl cursed Thorn, claiming that she smelled just like the country girl she despised from the bottom of her black heart, Xiao Ling. She continued to say that the smell stank and made her want to throw up. Yan Langling planned to end her ridiculous rant with a final killing blow to the mutant woman, but she immediately felt that something was severely wrong. A massive claw strike came so fast that she did not even have time to process what was happening. She was thrown to the side, tossed away like a ragdoll by Thorn and the White Tiger. The Lion Man called out to his partner as she crashed through the ground, sustaining fatal injuries. She struggled to speak and breathe as blood spurted from her neck. Thorn was not in better condition either. Gasping for air, the severe injury at the side of her body grew even more serious with each passing moment. That's when something unbelievable happened. In perfect human language, the White Tiger asked her to leave wholeheartedly. The White Tiger continued with his words as if he were a toddler who had just learned how to speak. He wanted Thorn to go and find their master, the God Tree. Thorn was taken aback by the White Tiger's words. In the months she had lived in the Bayou Gorge, he had been the only beast who had a hard time even understanding simple words, let alone speaking them. She had been a patient teacher, while the White Tiger proved to be her most troublesome student. He continued with his broken, childlike, but ultimately meaningful speech. He explained that behind them, there were many powerful spiritual resources. If Thorn didn't leave right away, every single one of them would die. She understood the gravity of their situation, but she couldn't bear to leave the beasts who had grown closer to her heart over time. She tried to protest the White Tiger's words, but she was met with a loud, gentle, and meaningful howl. White Tiger should be nominated for Best Cat Award. The howl finally gave her the determination to do what she needed to do at that moment. With her grievous wound, she utilized her powerful crimson vines to flee from the battlefield towards the location of their master, the God Tree. Naturally, the awakened forces would never let her go easily, so they promptly chased after her fleeing figure. The first ones to get close to her were immediately chewed up by the ferocious jaws of the Tempest Wolf. Following that, the reinforcement soldiers took their positions and prepared to rain down long-range special bullets upon the mutant woman. Just as the bullets were about to reach the already injured Thorn, the White Crane took the shots like the loyal subordinate that he was. This allowed Thorn to get further away from the chasing units. The White Crane teared up and chirped as he started to feel the pain of tanking the human's special bullets. The last Tempest Wolf on this side of the battlefield also succumbed to his stamina as the awakened forces unleashed their simultaneous abilities, overwhelming the beast. The human forces gained momentum as they released their full force upon the battle-worn white tiger. Thorn couldn't help but cry her heart out at the thought of leaving her friends and her pupil, White Tiger, to fend for themselves against the brutal humans. Even though they couldn't hear it, she apologized profusely for not having the strength to help them at all. More awakened forces rushed in, attempting to chase after the fleeing mutant woman. The last line of defense against these pursuers was the stalwart White Crane, spreading his wings and enduring the strikes from the awakened humans. With every attack he took, blood spurted from his frail and slender body. He remembered the fight he never wanted to participate in. In the White Crane's mind, he had no emotional attachment to the two girls attacked by the War Axe snake. He didn't want to die, and he couldn't understand why creatures that were already dead needed to be mourned so heavily. For him, such behavior was meaningless. But in the end, he still chose to fight and ultimately lost horribly. Cranes are large terrestrial birds that live in flocks. Usually, they consist of several families and form an even larger flock. They were considered an endangered species, but with a revival of spiritual energy, they barely escaped extinction. After his experience against the War Axe snake, he sought refuge under the protection of the God Tree. Although he was not valued as a core member of the circle and was just in existence on the edge, he was still happy because, for once in his life, he had a home. While interacting with a colorful cast of beasts and other creatures in the gorge, he gradually understood the determination for revenge that everyone had back then. The more he understood, the more painful it became. He felt ashamed of his own powerlessness at that time. From that point on, he made up his mind. When a crisis struck again, he would do what was necessary. So, he raised his wings in front of an awakened soldier and, in perfect human language, vowed to never let anyone pass. This side character bird is making me cry. Despite his existing fatal wounds, he exuded a dignified demeanor with his wings spread wide open. As the awakened soldiers rushed to get the White Crane out of the way, they were caught off guard by the lightning-fast pounce of the White Tiger. One of the soldiers was bitten in half, while the other was crushed by a claw. The White Tiger spat out the lifeless awakened shoulder and turned his attention to the hundreds of awakened soldiers in front of him. No matter which angles you looked at it, this was a losing battle. The genetic transcendent Gullo ordered everyone to charge at once, as the enemies were visibly on their last leg. The only thing replaying in the White Tiger's mind were the words his master had bestowed upon him. The God Tree had said that it was good he was pursuing greater power because, in terms of fighting skills, he would never lose. However, he must understand that the power of the flesh does not last forever. The body's power will dissipate over time, and when that time comes, he will feel afraid due to his lack of power. So, he must sharpen his mind. The courage to never retreat in the face of a powerful opponent and the righteousness to shoulder responsibilities were the things he must learn, as he would undoubtedly need them later. And that's because, out of everyone in these mountains, the White Tiger is the king of the beasts. You all got to put some respect in his name. A few moments later, Sparky finally arrived at his destination. He rushed with all the speed he could muster, and the sight that greeted him was nothing short of unbelievable. It was as if he was seeing the god of death itself in the form of a monstrous beast. The White Tiger had properly claimed his title as the king of the beasts atop a mountain of hundreds of awakened human corpses. He might be a cat, but he got that dog in him. Even Sparky felt a shiver run down his spine, witnessing their once silly tiger in this fearsome state. I have a question for you guys. When exactly does the attitude of a king begin to show in them? Is it from the moment they leave their mother's side? Is it when they achieve their first successful hunt? Or is it when they face death for the first time and show unwavering courage? No, it's none of those things. Instead, it's after the grueling tribulation White Tiger just went through. Sparky looked up from below, and all he saw was something out of a priceless painting. White Tiger stood on top of his foes, cementing his throne with their blood as the king of the beasts. But a closer look would reveal an almost lifeless light in his once vibrant eyes. Even in the face of death, he is still maintaining a proud attitude fit for a king. He was built different until his final moments. He'll always be king. When Blue Mantis caught up to Sparky at the battlefield, he looked up and saw the same eerie sight as his friend. Even though he was not too acquainted with the other beasts yet, he could not help but cry at the tragic sight in front of him. The skin on the right side of White Tiger's body was peeled off completely. Blue Mantis looked at Sparky on his side, unable to believe if the brutality he was seeing was real. The golden mutant ant that had suffered the most at the hands of humanity was visibly shaking and crying at the sight of his brother in this condition. His already intense revulsion towards humans was starting to boil to another level. His golden aura started resembling that of a bloody crimson energy. He simply could not stomach just how many more precious things the humans were taking away from him. He felt equal parts defeated and enraged by just how far humanity had extended their hatred. We fully support Sparky turning into the dark side completely. On another side of the battlefield, Bald Head and the slowly dying Gold Silk Monkey took shelter on a broken down tree after fleeing from the awakened soldiers who were actively pursuing them. Gold Silk Monkey was clearly not in any condition to run anymore as the scorpion venom continued to ravage his system. Bald Head was tired and injured. He was on his last legs with little to no gas in his tank. Suddenly, the voices of the awakened soldiers could be heard getting closer and closer to their location. These guys were not going to let them escape at all. Gold Silk Monkey was starting to become delirious as he knocked on death's door under the leaves that Bald Head had blanketed his cold body in. "Come on, man. Can we just go back to happy times?" The honey badger looked back at his longtime friend with profound sadness in his eyes. He had lost far too many precious comrades in such a short time. To distract the pursuers from his dying friend's body, Bald Head decided to rush through the woods and head toward the voices he heard. Sometimes the power of friendship is not enough. The awakened soldiers knew that the honey badger beast had defeated the Supreme Commander Yan Gao Yuan's team before. They knew it was a beast that could not be killed even with the use of armor-piercing bullets. They planned to take it on themselves to deal with this mighty monster. Just as they were wondering where Bald Head could have possibly run off to, a ferocious gaze of a hunter was already lurking right behind them. Just like a traveling bullet, he lunged through one unsuspecting awakened soldier and tore through his shoulder as if it were made of paper. The rest of the squad immediately went on high alert as one of their members fell lifeless on the ground and a beast jumped right over their heads. "Go for more assassinations, buddy. We're rooting for you." Without hesitation, an awakened soldier with a menacing gauntlet landed a critical hit squarely on Bald Head's small body. At the same time, another soldier wielding a fearsome mallet was readying her brutal strike. To cap off the combo, the mallet brought the injured Bald Head from the air to the floor with tremendous force, but the awakened soldier felt that something was off with her vicious attack. Lifting the mallet, she saw that the honey badger beast had surprisingly tunneled through the ground below. They had just lost their target once again. They quickly tried to regroup and conduct another thorough search of the perimeter. Just as they were about to leave, the ground shook in front of one of the soldiers. Bald Head tunneled upwards with unstoppable momentum as he unleashed a skull bash against the guy above him. This caused explosives with safety pins to fall all over the place. Bald Head was finding it hard to even stay conscious at this point. That's when a familiar hateful voice appeared at his flank, asking for the location, and insulting his friend, the Gold Silk Monkey. The awakened soldier who had killed the war armor boar released a vicious chop right in the middle of Bald Head's struggling body. "We don't even know who this guy is, but I hate him with a burning passion." The force was so powerful that it caused the surrounding terrain to break, bend, and cave inwardly towards the epicenter of the chop. Bald Head was suffering and shivering from the agony of his injuries piling up on top of each other. The ruthless man was not done yet. He released another punch that caved in his chest. This awakened soldier was simply full of hatred towards beasts, seeing them as nothing but bugs that dared to mess with him. Bald Head endured a brutal flurry of strikes from the soldier as he cried in pain. He raised his arms in a weak attempt to guard his broken face, but the onslaught did not show signs of stopping at all. The awakened soldier finally finished his rampage with an uppercut to the unconscious honey badger. He was sent flying forward until he hit the rocky terrain of the mountain. The awakened soldier squad looked in anticipation of their brutality as the dust settled on this battlefield. Bald Head was still trying to be resilient, as that was his biggest weapon, but he could barely stand and breathe. The soldiers laughed and joked amongst each other to stop wasting time and finish this beast off. There were many other beasts to kill in this massive mountain. In his mind, Bald Head could only think of a single good memory at the precipice of his life. He just wanted to ask the kind Shaolin for some more meat. At death's door, all he wanted was some more delicious meat. "You got this, buddy. We'll give you every cut of meat that you like." The awakened soldier squad resembled a pack of devils grouping up to torment the dying honey badger, using every means to hurt the little guy. They let their sick and twisted methods take over. That's when Bald Head revealed his final trump card. It turned out that he had stolen some grenades from the guy he had dealt with earlier. It was as if time slowed down as he let go of the explosives in the middle of the soldiers harassing him. They quickly caught on, but they were still taken aback by this desperate move by Bald Head. He was already mustering every single ounce of energy left in his tiny body to jump away from the inevitable explosions of the grenades. An explosive light enveloped the whole squad. They tried to flee, but it did not take even a fraction of a second for the powerful force to swallow their bodies whole. The chaotic battlefield was swallowed up by Bald Head's final ace in the hole. Meanwhile, on the other side of the gorge, a familiar scaly figure could be seen traversing the woods. Of course, it was none other than the transcendent beast, Emperor Alligator, finally making his move. Finally, go on a rampage, big boy. We see Bald Head standing in pristine condition, but something seems off. His presence feels ethereal and spiritual. Peace can be seen in his eyes as a familiar figure gently and excitedly calls out to him. It is none other than the spirit of the deceased kind woman, Shoveling. With just one look, the honey badger can already tell where he is now. He cries due to the mixture of emotions brewing inside him. Excitedly, he jumps and hugs the kind woman. She was the last person in his mind before he passed away. The only person kind enough to give him food out of pure generosity back then. He clings to her tightly as tears cascade like pouring rain. She reassures him that it is okay now. He won't be hurt anymore. "Who's cutting onions out here?" She takes him by the hand as they head off into the bright and serene light together. Back in the battlefield, Bald Head's body is bloodied, battered, and bruised from all the beating he endured. His little frame can no longer take it as he lies lifeless on the cracked ground. Gold Silk Monkey manages to push himself despite the painful venom rampaging inside his body. He does not care about the corpses of the awakened soldiers around his friend. All he wants is to rush to his side. He finally breaks down at the sight of his stubborn buddy, meeting his end after diverting the soldiers' attention away from him. "Come on, man. This war is too much." That's when he hears a feeble voice coming from one of the awakened soldiers. The soldier is complaining about his injuries and asking if anyone is out in the battlefield to help him. He pleads for help while cursing out Bald Head. He vows to skin the honey badger alive. No, it does not matter to him if it's alive or dead. He'll never let it go. Hearing this converts the sorrow that the Gold Silk Monkey is feeling into unrestrained rage as he picks up his trusty stick to bash the man in the face. He transformed into a tiny demon incarnate as he knows that this is the man responsible for taking the lives of his precious brothers. Seeing this form, the injured man feels powerless and immediately shifts into pleading for his life. He vows to leave the forest right now, trying every shameless measure to get out of the situation he started. This only serves as more fuel to the fire raging inside the Gold Silk Monkey's heart. He cries in grief and fury as there is only one thing he wants to do. He unleashes countless strikes from his trusty stick, having no regard for the man's pleas or his own health and well-being. He just wants the man to taste a fraction of the pain he's feeling. Go off, little guy. Bloody footsteps can be seen leaving the battlefield. What is left on the site is a broken-down stick that has turned crimson with blood, along with the disfigured and unrecognizable body of the awakened soldier who tormented the group of beast friends. He was not messing around at all. The Gold Silk Monkey has only one mission left in his mind as he carries Bald Head's body, limping forward with unwavering conviction. He's bleeding from his poisoned wound, and the venom has finally spread all over his body. That's when we see their destination, the lifeless body of his brother and best friend, the war armor boar. With a meaningful pat on the head, he looks at the sky of the Bayou Gorge one last time. A faint smile forms on his mouth as he reminisces about their time together. They bickered and fought about simple things, but the bond between the three of them is stronger than blood, species, or form. They're just three friends who went through everything together. Side by side, they nestle in peaceful slumber until their last breath fades into eternal rest. Rest in peace, boys. No more pain, In another part of the mountain, Thorn can be seen slowly limping in the woods. She has one goal in mind: to find the godded tree for her safety despite her grievous wound. She cannot let the sacrifices of her friends go to waste. That's when a familiar fur slowly steps near her. She turns her head and excitedly calls out to the unique coat of white tiger that caught her eye. It turns out to be the detestable Yan Lang Ling wearing the fur from the recently deceased king of the beasts. She dons her mocking smile as she taunts Thorn with her friend's skin worn like a piece of clothing. That's just foul. From now on, I don't like cat girls anymore. Behind Yan Lang Ling is the entourage of fierce and awakened soldiers, along with the genetic transcendent Gullah. The despicable woman continues to push her by saying that the white tiger's fur is extremely warm. Thorn finally breaks down at the sight of her friend and student's skin flayed off and worn. Despite her injuries, she pours her energy into her crimson vines, promptly locking onto the hateful cat girl. Yan Lang Ling took her on easily this time around. She takes advantage of her faster speed to bypass the charge of the crimson vines. She continues to mock Thorn, believing that she is no match for her with her scarred and battered body. She gets close and grabs her where it would hurt, pulling her by the hair and applying pressure to her bleeding wound as she intends to make Thorn suffer before taking her life. That's when a bright golden flash appears at the corner of everyone's eyes. An explosion quickly follows, catching even Gullah by surprise. Yan Lang Ling is forced to retreat as she safely gets out of the explosion in the nick of time, sustaining just a few injuries. It is none other than the remaining superhumans in the Bayou Gorge and Thorn's friends. Lang Feng at entry level 7 and Qing Chuan at entry level 8. The human force is astonished at the sight in front of them. They did not expect other humans to be part of the beast organization in these mysterious mountains. Gullah remains calm as he lays down the plan for everyone. If they catch these humans alive, they can interrogate them about the organization's affairs. He also instructs the once again injured Yan Lang Ling to retreat, as there is no way she can handle these reinforcements in her current state. The genetic transcendent himself will take them on alone. He looks dope though. I hope they can convert this guy into an ally or something. Back in the heart of the forest, General Lee and Yu Xiu stand in front of each other. The strongest presence on each side just a few meters away from crippling one side or the other. General Lee starts the conversation by stating that the massive god tree in front of him seems like the boss here. Yu Xiu does not waste any time and confirms the probing statement by the general. Inside Lee's mind, he formulates his next move. They already knew from the beginning that intelligent beasts exist, but even after speaking and interacting with this sentient creature, it still feels fantastical to him. He does not expect the boss to easily admit that he's in charge of everything directly. Slowly, he draws his sword as he continues to ask if Yu Xiu made the fog beasts as well. It turns out that General Lee is an extraordinary second-order transcendent. He has the innate ability of innate wisdom. He's also mastered sword chi alchemy, allowing him to increase his spiritual power and giving him the ability to go toe-to-toe with enemies stronger than him at the cost of his own lifespan. He is a man deserving to be called one of the strongest generals in the Federation. You got those crazy stats on paper. Let's see if he can hold candle to the goat. Yu Xiu casually confirms that he created everything around them and that humans should not have barged in here indiscriminately. The general claps back, stating that strange beasts shouldn't take away the places where humans live. If you don't get rid of them now, he fears that humanity won't be able to live in peace. Ticked off by this entitled and arrogant rebuttal, Yu Xiu concludes that words alone cannot solve the problem today. Blood must be drawn for a resolution. The general does not waste a second as he slashes his sword with every fiber of his spiritual energy. Yu Xiu simply responds by swinging his gargantuan root to intercept the general's blade, shattering it into a million pieces like glass. Along with the broken shards of his precious sword, the general's confidence slowly fragments as he realizes just who he is trying to fight. It's promptly constricted by the thick and strong roots, rendering the calm and composed general subdued. This scene is the definition of F around and find out. We once again find ourselves in a flashback to the war plans of the higher-ups regarding the hunt. They gathered inside the round table where Yan Gao Yuan is showing them. The footage of where the reconnaissance plane attached to the Emperor Alligator was last spotted before it entered the mountain. Right now, This is the visibility in the mountain as captured by the satellites. It is heavily surrounded by mist, and originally, the appearance of the misty mountains before the spiritual energy revival was that of a long gorge surrounded by lush trees. With this distinction, they have pinpointed that the gorge is the hiding place of the beasts. In a serious tone, he further explained what they were discussing earlier. They must consider the possibility that the organization which has control over the mountains might be humans. But in Yan Gao Yuan's gut, he feels that maybe this organization is not human after all. The head of the Federation and General Li were taken aback by the possibility of this hypothetical scenario. That's when he showed the footage of the moment when the reconnaissance plane was shot down by the fog beasts. In the lower right corner, there are some unidentified figures present. After technical restoration, they managed to salvage a result that shocked everyone in the room. It was a grainy footage of none other than the god tree himself, Yuziu. They caught him in 480p. They could not believe that they were seeing a tree evolving the beasts. It's only been half a year since the first spiritual revival. Being able to control 8 peregrine falcons and tame a first-order transcendent emperor alligator in such a short amount of time is unbelievable. They estimate that the strength of this tree could not be lower than that of a first-level transcendent. You must pump those numbers up to be able to manipulate all the strange beasts, evolve human beings, and learn the human language. They think that the answer to these mysteries will only be revealed to them when General Li personally arrives at the enemy's location. What they are going to confront is far from human. This will be their first direct contact with a newly awakened intelligent monster. Back in the heart of the gorge, General Li is being continuously pummeled by the almighty Yuziu. He brandished his root in the form of a sharp blade, only stopping a few inches from the man's throat. Just a few moments ago, this guy was making boastful statements that he would win right here and right now. This all-might-looking dude really thought he got this in the bag. But now, the scene is far from what he expected. Here he is kneeling in front of the god tree. His life is now in the hands of the boss monster. Yuziu stated that he had no intention of starting a war against humans at all. They did not have to attack this place. He extended an offer that if every human force retreats right now, he will never invade human territory. With eyes full of hatred and contempt, General Li expressed his doubts regarding the god tree's words. He continued that Yuziu probably hasn't realized it yet, but all incoming soldiers are equipped with spiritual power isolation devices, which can isolate the spiritual power within a radius of 5 meters around every unit. The spiritual power of Yuziu's subordinates has been cut off. They cannot even perceive the fog emanating all over the place. General Li continued his speech with the announcement that he had just received a message that all the organized beast creatures that have been targeting soldiers have been killed. Whether it's the honey badger that injured Supreme Commander Yan Gao Yuan back then, or the white tiger that fought against hundreds of soldiers to protect the mute woman, all of them have died on this mountain already. He readied his special ability as he continued to taunt and disturb Yuziu. In General Li's perspective, the god tree is the elephant, and the humans are just a group of ants. Only by biting him to death little by little can they continue to survive on this land. They had no reason to fight the elephant in the first place. Humans are stupid, bro. Yuziu finally showed signs of giving in to rage, but he held himself back. He knows that this war cannot be won without making sacrifices. But what that means is every single citizen in this gorge is not afraid of death. The peregrine falcons are continuing their job of bursting through the sky to erase every single airborne unit the human forces possess. They are swift and focused to the highest degree. The soldiers are beginning to realize that their speed is not the same as it was in the beginning. Even though they are incredibly strong, they are showing signs of fatigue already. Gullah had managed to make quick work of the superhuman reinforcements on one side of the battlefield. King Kong is in an intense battle against multiple awakened soldiers at once. He's been tanking enhanced bullets and spiritual abilities like there's no tomorrow. The Emperor Alligator finally arrived at the final site of his little brothers that he protected every single night of the mountain hunts as the Expeditionary Beast Unit. Press F to pay respects, boys. Tears could not help but fall from his eyes full of hatred and regret. Sparky is rushing towards the enemy lines that are continuously advancing towards the heart of the mountain. His hate and bloodlust are so palpable that you can see it in his eyes with just a single glance. In Yuziu's point of view, this world should belong to everyone, so they are never going to back down. Surviving and fighting is the only thing that they can do. Even if they receive the hatred of this world, they will endure. I followed this tree to the death. He asked General Lee a simple question. Since when did the world belong solely to humans? This simple question struck the general like a ton of bricks. Yu Xiu simply found this whole situation as a comical twist of fate. The humans started this bloody war, but if they can't kill him today, he vowed to stop at nothing to take his revenge. With utmost willpower and resolve, he declared that where they live, everyone does not need anyone's approval. That's because this world that they are living in is a place for all living creatures. This is why he is goated. These humans barging in just keep on blabbing, and it does not sit right with him. It was as if the Emperor Alligator heard his master's emotionally charged words as he roared in fury. Back on the other side of the gorge, Gullah gripped Ching Chuan by his neck as if he was nothing. He took care of everyone that stood in his way. That's when Sparky finally arrived with a surprise attack from the back, but the genetically modified anomaly managed to notice his blade coming and put up a defensive measure in less than a split second. Sparky is primed and ready for slaughter. Thorn was both relieved and afraid for the golden mutant ant's arrival. In his mind, vengeance is the only thing he can think of. He had finally caught up with the humans that killed his white tiger brother and left him in a broken state. The soldiers immediately positioned themselves to deal with the newly arrived enemy. But before they could even lift their guns, all of them were already decapitated as a blue lightning-fast aura weaved through the multitude of soldiers. Wherever Sparky goes, the fearsome blue mantis follows. Name a better assassin duo than this two. Gullah tried to create some distance against the golden mutant ant, but Sparky is relentless in his pursuit. He did not expect there to be another fast-moving beast among the enemies, and it was incredibly intelligent as well. Amid the chaos, the shameless Yan Lang Ling slowly tried to sneak off as she saw that the battle was escalating to a higher level. This girl is just the lowest of the low. Sparky caught this attempt to sneak off and immediately poised to pursue her. Disregarding Blue Mantis' warnings, he dashed full speed ahead, only to be met by a dark and sinister aura emanating from Gullah. Gullah effortlessly sent Sparky back to where he started from. He assured them that they are not the only ones that can move fast. The frustrated Blue Mantis tried to take a shot at the vampire-looking hybrid, but he was easily stonewalled by an absolute defense. In response, Gullah summoned hundreds of bats all over the place as he activated his Bat Shadow Impact. Blue Mantis was also sent back, defeated, and injured. Blue Mantis regained his footing, but he already knew that although the opponent had only used one move, they were not even close to being a match for this guy. Blue Mantis was only at entry level 7. After all, Sparky tried to stand up as he recovered from his reckless blunder. Like Blue Mantis, he was only at entry level 8. The man in front of them was the ace of the extraordinary genetic division, the level 1 transcendent Gullah. You guys are going to need the big guns for this Dracula. The always calm and eloquent Sparky turned into a beast as he roared with all his might. A golden meteor charged towards Gullah. It was as if Sparky had lost all reason as he tried to attack with the same technique. He clashed against the genetic transcendent, but the results were the same. He was stonewalled completely. With a stubborn shout, he continued with a flurry of slashes at the limits of his speed. Gullah effortlessly dodged every single swing, leaving only after images with each step he took. This dude has Ultra Instinct. He briefly built up momentum from the floor and exhibited his top speed as he surrounded the vampire with golden streaks of his after images. Sparky was moving so fast that even the Blue Mantis could not keep up with his unpredictable movements. The pure animosity he felt towards humanity culminated as he reached the highest speed he could muster. He slammed down like a golden comet directly towards Gullah. Instead of the end of the battle, all Sparky saw was a face full of contempt. Gullah insulted him for going all out, using all his strength and speed, only to be unable to penetrate his skin. He raised his cloak, which took on a sharp appearance as it swiped Sparky as if he were just a useless bug. As always, Blue Mantis came to his rescue with the fastest speed he could muster. Gullah simply laughed at this charge as it had already been proven that their attacks were no match for him. That's when something unexpected happened. The unconscious, beaten, and bloody Ching Chuan stood up, catching Gullah by surprise. When it came to pure body strength, Ching Chuan was at the top of the charts. So when he grabbed Gullah with a grapple, he held him tightly. He screamed for Lang Feng to finish off their surprise attack as a silhouette of a sword-wielding man came into view from the dark skies. He stated that since he was too weak to cut through the transcendent skin, he would go from Gullah's eyeballs all the way through his intestines. That's a Mortal Kombat fatality. For the first time in this war, the ace of the extraordinary genetic division felt genuine dread and anxiety. When the killing blow was supposed to land on his hateful eyes, the vampire naturally transformed into 100 different bats, rendering their grapple and stab useless. Lang Feng gritted his teeth in frustration at letting such a golden opportunity go to waste. From a distance, a weak voice telling them what to do could be heard. Among the hundreds of bats flying in the air, there was certainly one particular beast that bore a special feature. Thorn had successfully and immediately recognized the distinction, yelling at her friends to target the bat with red eyes. Gullah clicked his tongue as his trick was so easily seen through by Thorn's intuition. But before he could do anything about it, Blue Mantis was already behind him, going for a sneaky death blow. The bat with red eyes panicked, not expecting the coordination of his enemies to be as quick. In his weak bat form, Blue Mantis finally landed a clean blow on his back, prompting him to scream in pain from the sharp slash. He started losing balance mid-air, blaming his luck for the relentless attacks coming at him one after another. That slash really took a toll on him as he crashed down at unbelievable speeds. Sparky would never let an opportunity like this pass him by. Gullah, in bat form, was once again put in a pinch as the hateful ant approached him at absurd speeds with killing intent. Sparky finally caught up and immediately grabbed the tiny, red-eyed bat by its tiny head. He repeatedly shouted the word "die" as he exerted his authority over his enemy. He crashed the bat onto the ground, causing a massive impact with just his sheer force. Lang Feng and Qing Chuan watched in anxious anticipation to see if they finally won this time around. Blue Mantis rushed to Sparky's side to see what had just happened. That's when his sinister aura started to emanate directly from the ground where the bat had been slammed into. The only thing on their minds was to run as fast as they could. Gullah activated his powerful transcendent ability, the Shadow Impact. Dark beams of shadow exploded in every direction, swallowing even the light itself. Blue Mantis hurriedly shoved Sparky away from the direct beam of shadow, taking it into his body. Similarly, Qing Chuan pushed Lang Feng to safety as he took the brunt of the force from the shadow beam, piercing cleanly through his body. When the shadow impact finally subsided, the surrounding area became barren, and a thick cloud of dust enveloped the whole expanse. The hundreds of bats quickly coalesced back into the original form of the transcendent Gullah. He complained that the move he just used consumed far too much energy, but he knew not to underestimate the squad he was facing. He had been blindsided far too many times already. Bro just used his ultimate. Lang Feng mourned the loss of his friend who sacrificed his life just to save him from certain death. Blue Mantis was not in the best shape either. He was coughing dangerously as the rage-blinded Sparky called out to him. He looked back at his friend and what he saw was traumatizing. Half of Blue Mantis' body had been blown off by the powerful beam of the shadow impact. His blood and guts spilled all over the floor. Sparky once again witnessed another one of his friends sustaining a fatal injury. This time, Blue Mantis sacrificed the right side of his body just to protect him. Gullah had finally recovered and was already going for another killing blow. His torn-apart cloak transformed into a sharp form resembling a drill. He assessed Sparky's traits, a petite body, superb speed, and impeccable strength. He knew that if he didn't kill him there, it would only become a lot harder to deal with him down the line. The only thing on his mind was killing Sparky right now. Kneeling in front of his friend who had just sacrificed himself to save him, Sparky was oblivious to the murderous rush of Gullah. Suddenly, the already injured Thorn stood up and rushed towards Gullah's strike. Sparky was brought back to his senses as his friend, his fifth sister, led down on him. Gullah's strike pierced through her body as if she were made of paper, and the Transcendent laughed maniacally. She turned to Sparky with her farewell. She said it was her turn this time to save him. Thorn's eyes became lifeless as the sharp cloak was withdrawn from her wound. Rest in peace, girl. This is the second time you're being taken from us. If Gullah reported these events to the military officials, maybe this kind of war wouldn't happen again in the future. but he decided to keep it all to himself. This was the only way he could keep finding pleasure in killing. He reassured them that they didn't have to cry because it didn't matter who died first. Now that he had changed his mind, he was going to kill every single one who stood in front of him. He considered killing Ching Chuan and Thorn as merely appetizers. Lang Feng was swallowed by grief as he blindly charged towards the monster, swinging his sword full of emotions. He called out to Sparky to take the mantis with him and run away if they wanted to live. He utilized another one of his trump cards as he called out to the mutant rat digging squad from the construction of the underground city. Gutla didn't like rats at all. He viewed them as hateful creatures. As Sparky prepared to have another go at it with the genetic transcendent, the barely alive blue mantis called out to him. He knew they couldn't beat the guy at all. They had to run away. Blue Mantis wanted to let the humans kill each other.